loading my stuff, I'm like,
Be like,
sure,
hey, yeah, sure, go screw yourself.
yeah, like maybe don't do that.
All right.
Like,
Well, I think that's enough witty banter for one freeform session. Why don't we go ahead and talk about 2020? Look forward to 2021. Well, okay, Superman Studios presents the Sauce Wrestling Show. Gentlemen, we are going to go live across YouTube and Twitch in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And
well,
Heyo!
it's Sunday. You know what
you
that
know what
means,
that
Monday,
means.
Monday.
guys. Normally we're really cheery and happy when we start this, but
Yes.
I'm starting the show with the drink. You can.
I've got one right here, man.
I mean, that's wise.
Last night we I got the news when I was just like, out with, I got the news. I don't know where you guys were, but I know I was like just out with, with some people, just eating dinner. I don't know where you guys were, but we
with some hot
learned
sauce.
learned
The guy had the freaking hot sauce, of course.
learned of the unfortunate passing of one John Huber, better known to the wrestling world as either Luke Harper or Brody Lee. Former Intercontinental Tag Team and TNT champion. This one hit the wrestling world really hard. I'm not gonna lie to you. He honestly, like, if one good thing came out of this, and it was the fact that every single person that's ever worked with him in the ring, doesn't matter what promotion he was working for, forgot the fact that there were ever ties or ever, shackles that probably shouldn't have been there to begin with, and they realized the fact that their friend had just passed away.
Well said.
Because this was a very, very sad day in the world of professional wrestling, because one of the best professional wrestlers, one of the best entertainers, and one of the best human beings to ever walk this earth had passed away.
A real family man with 2 children and a beautiful wife. Now they must continue on what Mr. Brody Lee, what Luke Harper, what John Hubert left everybody, whoever was grateful enough to be with him in or out of the ring. We've seen so many thank yous, tributes, and condolences across AEW, WWE, the independent wrestling scene, Impact Wrestling, no matter where, constituents galore, news outlets, media, etc. Me and Cindy G did a tribute earlier regarding the legacy he left for us as fans. It will not be forgotten. And all I can say is thank you to John Hubert, and may he rest in peace, and my prayers and condolences to the family. Noah G, your thoughts?
You guys both said it better than I can. I personally, if we want to get into what his passing, as sad as it is, and as much as his loved ones, his closest ones will mourn, and us as wrestling fans will mourn, if we want to get into it a little bit later as questions and the questions that arise because that this has happened, like with the Dark Order, like what this means for those who are closest to him in WWE, how this is going to change their performance, things of that. Certainly, I want to get into that. But personally, I was really shook up and caught off guard. I'm like, is this real? And and then I just open my phone and I see all over Twitter, it's just nothing but love and support, and I believe it's still trending on Twitter. It's pretty mind-blowing that somebody that was very well known, and I remember being so overjoyed and happy when I was watching the Dynamite live and seeing him debut as the what is his nickname in the I'm sorry, I'm
The Exalted One.
The Exalted One. That promo that he cut to make his debut. I was so happy, and I'm like, it was a holy shit moment, and I was so happy because the whole Wednesday Night War. It's just like we have yet another WWE star, former WWE star, shows up on AEW and completely just skyrockets it, in AEW. So I was very happy, and also impressive performance even though if he wasn't happy in his performance in WWE under the Wyatt family gimmick and under his solo run, he still did a great job. He's a former Intercontinental Champion and Tag Team Champion, like you guys mentioned earlier. But my curiosity, and I think we'll just go right to it. I'm not trying to discredit him, or I don't want to, skip over the fact that, give us some time to mourn. But I mean, like, I'm just curious, like, what does this mean for the Dark Order now?
I figure, it's like my friend Cindy G alluded to. I imagine they still keep going. You got to remember, the Dark Order was an original idea of Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. They were the ones that came with the idea and the gimmick, and they are the ones that have rolled with it. Mr. Brodie Lee redefined the identity of the Dark Order, though. And with Evil Uno trying to recruit the likes of Heyman and Page and Dustin, I still feel like there's many stories yet to come out of the Dark Order. I think they'll continue, but I feel like there's going to be definitely some stepping up now from the Dark Order. If nothing else, I see John Silver really pushing the Dark Order forward.
1000% agree.
This is why we
need Jack here.
we need.
I can't do it. I'm in the suit, and let's be honest. John Silver, we will never see John Silver in a suit as long as he wants to do this. Okay, that's the bottom line.
He'll just rip the sleeves off of the suit jacket and look like Larry the Cable Guy and just do the flex.
Otherwise, he'll pull a Chris Farley.
Yep,
I mean, there's that possibly. You got a point there. But yeah, and to go off your point about the debut, originally it was supposed to be in his hometown, in front of a crowd. He had to do this under the worst of circumstances that have befallen our world this year, not just in wrestling, but as humanity. Underneath a pandemic, in front of nobody but the talent and staff they used ringside as the audience. And again, it was still an incredible debut, but imagine what it could have been in front of a full arena.
And I think also, and I think I can speak for a lot of people when they say I was also thankful to hear that his death was not COVID related.
Absolutely.
That was actually a bit relieving because, people today are losing their loved ones because of this virus. And it's thankful that there was something else going on. And this is, I'm curious as to how severe this was for him and how this impact. I guess this is why he needed to step away. The time that he did. But I think everybody was completely shook up by this. But yeah, I think I'm curious to see how, as I said earlier, I'm curious to see how this impacts Bray, Wyatt.
Well, he already shared his piece.
As the Fiend, yeah.
Man, that was
him and Rowan both did. Him,
Rowan, Cody, Anna Jay, John Silver, and most importantly, his wife.
Yeah.
And Strowman as well also did.
And along with many others, I'm sure.
This is a little more subtle, but...
Yeah, but when you think about what his wife said, what Bray said, what Cody said, and Cody, by the way, was his last match. That goes deep.
He wrestled that with that lung issue. Like
it's hard to believe that is true, but you absolutely might be right, Pete. And again, it was an incredible match, an incredible short-term story, and I feel like AEW was truly one of the biggest highlights, if not the biggest, of John Harper's career.
And if anything, I just hope that this, as much as we love to talk about which show's better, as well as as much as Brian Alvarez loves to
it doesn't matter
every week about the number of viewers, I hope this unites wrestling fans and brings some sort of unity.
There's a reason why I simply say on Twitter every day, just enjoy life and enjoy wrestling. Why must there be competition? Why must there be toxicity? Why must there be a war in your own eyes? Everyone has their own taste. New, old, to be created, it doesn't matter. Just appreciate and enjoy wrestling. If you don't, go find something else. Don't bring hatred here.
Go back and watch soccer.
Again, look, everybody. Okay, jeez, that was out of nowhere, but okay, fine.
That was great.
No, that was soccer. So if you know MMA and you know who Jorge Masvidal is,
I
love that man to death. He basically said, a reporter asked him, why did you need this guy in the face, quickest knockout in UFC history? Why did you just punch him in the face afterwards? The ref didn't pull me off. So to those people who criticize me just stop watching fighting and go back to watching soccer.
I mean, Ronda Rousey knocked somebody out within 46 seconds. Just saying.
Yep. And then also, I'm just saying, we had WrestleMania a couple years ago where it's Ronda Rousey and Triple H in a ring, and Ronda Rousey's unloading punches on Triple H, one of the greatest of all time in the history of WWE and professional wrestling. Why aren't we having mixed matches on WWE programming? You do that at WrestleMania.
I actually might have an answer to that.
Vince McMahon.
It's not a Vince thing. I've actually heard this particular theory thrown around by multiple people, and while I don't agree with it, I kind of understand it. It's kind of domestic violence tied.
Yeah.
Considering what has happened with recent WWE talent that is no longer involved with the company, and a movement we've had, I kind of understand your points.
So, the first person I heard give this sort of correlation was Booker T. And he brought it up after Tessa Blanchard won the world title in Impact. He said he wasn't really crazy about it because he has a couple sisters, and he basically didn't like the idea of essentially promoting the idea that someone could come after, a male could come after his sisters or anybody else's sisters or daughters or anything like that. And I don't agree with the notion, because I feel like there's multiple arguments to be made about it.
Yeah.
But I understand it from that point of view, because I have a sister, I have a mother, I have a 2-month-old niece. I get it. But there's multiple arguments to be made. There's multiple points of view on it. So
I think if you want to go about you want to present it as a woman, I'll use this as a perfect example because I've been very vocal about this. Also, while in the same vein of mentioning this, Big E recently won the Intercontinental Championship.
Spoiler alert!
A little bit later. We'll get into that a little bit later. But for the sake of the argument, Sami Zayn was the Intercontinental Champion prior. Say they decide to move Rhea Ripley onto the main roster. If you want to attach a rocket ship on her back, throw her into that match against Sami Zayn and have her win the Intercontinental Championship. That will get people buzzing, and it will get WWE viewers. And Noah's giggling at me, but he knows I'm right.
I'm not going to disagree. I'm not going to disagree.
Sami Zayn gets his ass whooped. Sami Zayn will get his ass whooped by Rhea Ripley because they're going to present it as a woman can fight in a man's world. They did the same with China back in the 90s.
I was saying, you literally are doing China versus Jeff Jarrett reinvented, but it's not about women's only places in the kitchen.
It was Jeff Jarrett. That's what I've been sitting here pondering.
As Jeff Jarrett was alluded to.
If I see a man attacking a woman, because in WrestleMania it's Ronda Rousey kicking Triple H's ass. Triple H is not doing anything. He's just taking it like a champ because he is. If I see I think we saw the Dudley Boys put several women through tables back in the Attitude Era.
Yep.
One of them was a senior citizen.
Right.
Senior citizen is an understatement.
I'll speak candidly about this. This is kind of crossing the line into real life. Coming from somebody who has seen, not in my household or my family, my family's good, but in real life amongst in school and classmates, somebody who's witnessed assault on a woman, it's not fun. And it actually is, it's not a good thing to carry around with you as baggage. I never want to see harm come to any of the girls. Our hearts were broken when we found out that Paige had to retire, but that's not I'm going off subject. I'm talking about just.
We went off subject a long time ago. We went from Mr. Brody Lee, Luke Harper, John Gruber to intergender wrestling, if it's okay. But this is the Sauce Wrestling Show, stirring up everything. So go ahead and wrap up this intergender argument. Go ahead and finish your thought.
Please.
I think if WWE decided to go down that route, I think they know how to tell a story the right way in regards to a woman winning a men's championship.
At least certain people do.
Yeah.
Do we want to go into the this past week in review, or what are we thinking, boys?
Well, let me go ahead and sum this up real quick. Men and women should be able to coexist in society. If they choose to face each other in sport, that is entirely up to them, and you would think they would work under the safest circumstances. Case in point, I have no right to judge, I have no right to book. And as far as Jon Huber, may he rest in peace. My prayers and condolences to the family. I enjoyed seeing them live when the Bludgeon Brothers faced the Good Brothers for the SmackDown Tag Team titles during a June edition of Friday Night SmackDown that I saw live 2 years ago, right here in my hometown. So let's go ahead and look at this week in wrestling, now that we've gone over an interesting topic and a recent fall. So, Pete, what happened on Monday Night Raw?
You got Monday Night Raw, brother.
It's actually a pretty decent show, but before I get into it, let me say this. I actually watched Dolph Ziggler versus Luke Harper from TLC 2014 for the Intercontinental title.
That was such a good match. Oh my gosh.
Arguably one of the best ladder matches of this past decade. So, Jon Huber, R.I.P.
Noah G, before we go on to Raw, have you ever seen Luke Harper live in any match or capacity?
Any match like live in person?
Yes.
See, you're talking to somebody who hasn't been to. I met you guys at a live event. We came up with the show because we met at a live event. That NXT show that we met was the second WWE event I'd ever been to in my entire life. So to answer your question, no. But I have seen a majority. Like the thing that sticks out for me when it comes to Luke Harper is not only his Intercontinental Championship run, but even more than that, the Wyatt family versus the Shield.
Great match.
God,
incredible match. Stole the show. Stole the show.
Monday night, like that. Oh God, that was insane.
One thing that comes to mind, like outside of I'm fairly certain he was in the Royal Rumble the year that I went, which was the year that AJ Styles debuted. I'm fairly certain all four members of the Rumble were, of the Wyatt family were in there.
You are correct, because when AJ got eliminated, Luke Harper said, bye-bye, AJ.
So, and when I went to Fastlane in 2018, it was the New Day versus the Usos, and the then Bludgeon Brothers got involved, and they pretty much beat the shit out of Xavier Woods.
You remember when the Usos took on Eric Rowan and freaking Luke Harper at WWE Battleground for the old school bronze and black leather tag team championships in the 2 out of 3 falls match? You don't see that. You don't see that type of action in tag team matches anymore, where you have to have a match of that gimmick, and it works. One point, freaking Luke Harper's eyes rolling to the back of his head. That was a hard-fought battle.
No, one time I said on Twitter, I said, to answer your question, I said, we didn't like the pennies. No, the nickels are no better, and making the plates bigger and making them quarters is not going to make it better either.
No, I agree. I'll take the pennies over the nickels at least. At least it looks more authentic.
By the way, Noah, check the. So Jack just hopped on to the Facebook. So if we want to switch, and I hate to do that, I don't think anybody is on the Twitch right now. So if we want to switch over to the Sauce Show, we can do that because he just put the code in the Facebook.
Oh, well, it might have expired actually, but I don't know. I'll see about it. Maybe we'll do that after we're done with the week and do an intermission thing. I'll see what I can do. But so anyway, in the meantime, we talked about our favorite matches and moments for Luke Harper, Mr. Broily. By the way, Dustin, Mr. Broily. I loved that match so damn much. Yeah. And that dog car match, you talk about way to go out. What a story Cody and him told. But I digress. Trying to move on now.
So,
Monday Night Raw.
Monday Night Raw, because it was actually a pretty decent episode. Opened with a promo of the new women's tag team champions, Asuka and the returning Charlotte Flair. So she essentially just said, Charlotte just talked about how this was the first time she was in the Thunderdome, and they were eventually. She eventually introduced Asuka. Asuka said a few things, and I would love to tell you what they were, but to be totally honest, I don't speak Japanese, so I can't.
Fair enough.
Eventually, they were cut off by Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, and they were talking about how, and Nia Jax eventually was like, those 6 months, 6 months were great to your broken arm, but they weren't great to your robotic voice. And Charlotte was like, how's this for my robotic voice? I kicked your ass last night.
All right.
I was like, that's pretty good. They were eventually cut off by Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose.
Yeah.
I
okay.
gotta be honest. I don't remember what they said. But
Okay. Here's the thing. Before we get into Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose, because I gotta put somebody over for that. All I saw during that whole segment was the thing where Charlotte was covering Asuka's eyes. I don't know what that was all about because I didn't watch this segment in full, but that's all I saw on the internet was like just Charlotte putting her hand over Asuka's eyes so that she wouldn't see what was happening.
Yeah. But the tag match between Shayna Baszler, and I even wrote it down as Shay Jax, partially to give you credit, Noah G, but also because I was running out of room.
Thanks, buddy.
But pretty good spots made Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose look really good. I've been saying for a while that they're probably the most built out of any of the tag teams, male or female, on Raw.
Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad.
I'm gonna put them over for a second. I think this is we talked about how we have talked about how you throw two single stars together in a tag team, but I heard an interview with these two together, and they
Lillian?
have a lot of big fan of the Chasing Glory podcast, and
Shout out to Lillian Garcia.
Love Lillian Garcia, man. But these two have legit chemistry. They have a lot in common, and I think I hope to God and pray that they keep these guys together and keep building them up because they have the makings of a good tag team. As long as they keep working on in ring performance.
You got there.
And as a tag team, I think that they have the makings of going a long way. And let's just face it, what they did with Asuka and Charlotte, it works, I guess. But they're two singles.
It's setting up for something else.
Clearly, come on. Before they got interrupted, they literally Charlotte subtly talked about Raw Women's Championship. Oh boy.
Right. Exactly. Now, whether this leads to maybe there's tension between Asuka and Charlotte, and then they lose the titles to the Riot Squad, another tag team who deserves to be champion right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. Either
I
one
could buy
of
into
those
that.
two. Now, what I really want to happen, and if it was me with the book, and if it was me, and if I was behind that curtain, and if I could redo, go back in time, do Survivor Series over again, I'd have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler out there calling anybody out. I'd say, I got a tag team for you, and I would get the Iconics back together, and they would win the whole damn thing.
Yes! The only legitimate women's tag team in WWE, just saying, they were former friggin' tag team champions. Stupid as
Never
shit to
could've
split
split
them up. And I'll preach that until the day that Peyton either has a singles title or you do something to reunite Billy and Peyton again. There, I said it. Forever.
Yeah,
Iconic!
I agree.
Sorry,
I agree.
King, if you disagree.
No, I agree. And for that reason, and also, we're not even talking about, how this hurts Lacey Evans as well, because I personally want to see her get, some singles shine as well.
Yeah, I mean, Lacey Evans right now is literally lost in the shuffle, worse than Peyton Royce.
This is hurting her just as much. Because remember, this about a year and a half ago, she was main eventing pay-per-views.
That's right.
Yeah, because of Becky. Becky was putting her over.
Main event's a main event.
Well, main event should be gone. I mean, we have Reckoning versus Nikki Cross on main event. Again, main event should be canceled. But anyway, continue, Pete, with Raw.
I'm not talking about that main event.
Oh.
So we go to Miz TV with AJ Styles. AJ Styles calls out The Miz for costing him the WWE Championship when he cashed in the Money in the Bank. And Miz says he's well aware of that. He said it was supposed to be his moment. Miz then says, hey, I just realized, Morrison, you technically cashed in Money in the Bank for me. I demand my contract back. McIntyre comes out and follows up with a follow-up Christmas Carol that Keith Lee and Sheamus help him for. This leads to a melee between the six of them. When Sheamus goes for that brogue kick, AJ Styles drop kicks Keith Lee into Sheamus. This leads to them getting into a bit of a war of words, and Drew McIntyre tries to keep the peace. They go to commercial. Now, before I get to my next part of it, I have something to say about Money in the Bank.
Uh-oh.
So there's been some debates all over social media about how Money in the Bank, whether or not Money in the Bank should be retired. I do not think it should be.
I agree.
I think if it should be fixed, I think it needs work. But let me show you this. This is a list of successful Money in the Bank cash-ins. Edge, RVD, Edge, CM Punk, Jake Hager, Kane, The Miz, Alberto Del Rio, Daniel Bryan, Dolph Ziggler, Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, Sheamus, Jon Moxley, Carmella, Alexa Bliss, Brock Lesnar, Bayley, and Asuka. That's 20. The unsuccessful ones, John Cena, Damian Sandow, Baron Corbin, Braun Strowman, and The Miz. 25. I think Money in the Bank is too important to WWE to just toss to the wayside. It's also to retire it, to just get rid of it, because it's had a few bad runs, would be a slap in the face to every single person who has had their career benefit from it.
Okay, question while we're on this subject of the Money in the Bank briefcase, because what they used to do, the original intention was, you could, even with a brand split, you could use that briefcase however you want to cash in on whatever championship you want, and it was a WrestleMania match.
Correct.
Instead of having its own pay-per-view. Go back to being a WrestleMania ladder match, or should they and do away with the pay-per-view, or should they keep the pay-per-view and have, because they have now they have two separate briefcases, one for the men, one for the women. Should they have a Raw SmackDown?
I liked the idea of it being at WrestleMania before there was a men's and women's matches, because then but now that there's a men's and women's match, it feels like Money in the Bank kind of takes over WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So now I'm not as into that idea. But to your point, the past 2 years, they've kind of made it a point to be like, when you win the match, you have to cash in on your brand's champion. That's one place to start as far as fixing Money in the Bank. Like, as far as you have to be allowed to cash in on either champion. Like, Let me give you a perfect example.
Brock Lesnar.
Edge won his second Money in the Bank contract when he beat Mr. Kennedy. I don't know if you noticed, I didn't count Otis or Mr. Kennedy because they didn't get a chance to cash in. I only counted cash-ins.
Right.
When he cashed in, he was on Raw. He showed up on SmackDown and cashed in on The Undertaker. When I saw that happen, I went fucking insane.
Yep.
I want those moments back. That's a good place to start, is getting rid of that rule, because it's one thing that makes the Royal Rumble special, is having somebody be able to choose which champion they go to challenge.
Yeah, you want that surprise effect back, and the fact there's both a men and women playing them at WrestleMania, I feel like would be absolute overkill at this point. So this is one pay-per-view that actually makes sense due to the purposes that are instilled with it.
Yeah.
I definitely miss the fact that the Money in the Bank winner could leave both branch championships on their toes, because at this point, if the one champion knows that this is a threat to them, they're constantly going to be aware about it, and it's not going to feel as big when they do it. It's almost like it has to be forced on them just to try and give them a chance. Hence, Miz trying to cash in this past Sunday, which, by the way, we didn't even discuss, TLC, and he still lost.
That TLC cash-in was a misfire. I think we can all agree on that. That was the wrong time in the night to cash in. In all honesty, Miz should know better, because he cashed in on Randy Orton on Monday Night Raw, and it was after Randy Orton was beaten down and broken. It should have been after the match was over. Okay, if Drew McIntyre was sitting at the top of the ladder with the championship in hand, Miz could have ran into the ring, pushed the ladder over, and knocked Drew on his ass, and it wouldn't have. And the title. It would have been just a regular match. Eddie had weapons in the ring.
If anybody is vertical, it is the wrong time.
Yep. Period. I think they just did that to throw every gimmick possible. Think about it. You had tables, ladders, chairs. You had a 7-foot bodyguard, and then you have Miz and Morrison and a Money in the Bank cash-in. They threw everything to make Drew McIntyre seem the strongest in the end, overcoming all the obstacles. But due to that, it kind of hurt Money in the Bank.
Right.
And fuck, now that NXT is involved, what if someone cashed in on the NXT championship?
Now you're opening even more. Now you're opening even more possibilities, and that would be a way to further define NXT truly as another brand, not just necessarily giving Charlotte, for example, the NXT Women's Championship at WrestleMania.
And like I've said, I have said this. I want a tag team Money in the Bank match. Like I want there to after a while when they build the tag team division back up, because I think it can do it. I want that to happen.
Yeah, fuck it. Like, if you want to have a Money in the Bank pay-per-view, why not?
I mean, it's the only division that has been unaffected by Money in the Bank, and Otis had those aspirations at first with Tucker. So I definitely would like to see that. But again, it all comes down to the possibilities of the cash-in. And right now, across the tag team divisions, just Raw and SmackDown alone, there's more impromptu tag teams on SmackDown than there is on Raw. Not by many.
Clearly, like tag teams can do a ladder match. We know that for years. But also, like, I remember Elimination Chamber last year. There was a tag team Elimination Chamber match.
Yes.
That was probably the best Elimination Chamber of the night. Outside of that, the only other one was the Women's Elimination Chamber match where Shayna cleared the field. That still wasn't a good Elimination Chamber match. It was there for the sheer purpose of making Shayna look good.
But you had her standing for 15 minutes overall, doing nothing.
See, that's the thing.
But teasing Asuka inside a chamber while Asuka was dancing. And even that drove the crowd to chant CM Punk.
That's the thing. They did a good job of making Shayna look good, but that doesn't mean the match was good. The tag team chamber match, that was a good fucking match.
And Otis driving himself through the chamber. That was a ridiculous spot.
But that was my point. Don't retire Money in the Bank. Just find ways to fix it.
Yep.
So, all right, good segue. Back to Raw. What else happened?
Hurt Business promo, VIP Lounge, and MVP starts. Shelton Benjamin continues with his promo and is cut off by Cedric Alexander. This has been a pattern and has been growing ever since Cedric Alexander joined the Hurt Business.
Yeah.
And it's been constantly growing. It's less and less subtle. I don't think it's going to lead to them like splitting them up because I like this combination. I hope it doesn't lead to that because I like what they have here.
I really do enjoy the Hurt Business, and the fact that Shelton Benjamin is a tag team champion again since freaking 2003 with the greatest tag team, and he did, by the way, in tribute to Shad Gaspard, respect. I really like this dynamic of this all-around amazing athlete, Shelton Benjamin, and this high, young, hungry upriser in Cedric Alexander who truly feels like he's the next big thing, wants to own it all, feel like he should be the leader. I like this dynamic. I want to see where this goes. I'm very happy the Hurt Business has the gold, too.
Cedric Alexander can cut a really good promo. I've been saying that for a while. Like that, I'm ever since he turned heel, they've let him work the stick a little more, and I'm glad they have.
Yeah.
Bobby Lashley eventually takes the mic and says, a lot of things. One of them in particular is that no man alive can take his U.S. title, which I would believe that. Under normal circumstances, I would believe that, but they also haven't really put up anybody up to try.
I'm about to say they got nobody in the United States title picture right now, even trying to go after freaking Bobby Lashley.
And here's the thing. This is the Bobby Lashley we've wanted. We've asked for this Bobby Lashley that it's just looked like an absolute monster and a badass. But at the same time, when no one's stepping up to try to challenge him and take him down, it doesn't mean much.
Exactly.
Are we right on? Are we on the same page there? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I got nothing else to say.
But because that's the thing. If you bring some people up to try to take him down, then that's really the only thing missing to this puzzle. They're eventually cut off by Matt Riddle and Jeff Hardy, who essentially cut a promo saying that, they need to relax a little bit, saying that, they are not held down by greed, things like that.
I think it's funny that they put Jeff Hardy and Matt Riddle together, and there's one particular thing that these two gentlemen have in common with each other, and
vices.
Their vices and their recreational use of specific substances.
Oh no, bro.
So I fucked up taking these notes as far as the order because the actual promo came before Miz TV, but I suck at taking notes.
Well, it's not like you're going over every minute, okay? I mean, just give us your best thoughts of Raw. That's all good.
Every minute of the Hulu version.
That's already a contest in itself.
I literally watched Raw today.
Good on you.
Proceed to a decent match against Lashley and MVP, which ends with the Hurt Business getting a win by a twist of fate counter into the Hurt Lock. Now that's the thing, like, Lashley and Jeff Hardy work very well together, and pretty much anything that that twist of fate counters into and made just look good. I don't know. That's just a weird way of saying it, but that's pretty much what it is. Now comes probably my favorite part of the night, this Randy Orton promo, which was post TLC. They highlighted, where the Fiend got set on fire. He says, and I paraphrase this, but I did get most of the words out. And he said, "I've been called sick, I've been called twisted, deranged, etc. And I proved I'm all of those things when I burned the Fiend alive. Last night, I enjoyed every second as I watched the Fiend burn. Stands over the exact spot. As I close my eyes, I can smell it. The voices in my head don't exist. The only thing I hear is the Fiend gasping for air."
Yeesh.
Yeah.
Woo.
And then I put usual dark shit, which is basically that. Dark comes back. The light comes back on. Alexa Bliss is swinging from a swing with a moment of bliss on top in the Firefly Funhouse font. And she said she's calling it Alexa's Playground. She said, I can't remember what she said. She goes, eventually, like, the Fiend could come back as if it never happened, and if that happens, it'll be like nothing you've ever seen before, or something like that. I didn't write everything down, but that's essentially what it's like. But yeah, Alexa Bliss is creepy, and it's awesome.
Hey, she's doing some character work. And honestly, I love this exploration of, and I vocalized this before, what she's been doing with the Fiend, her work, and how she's explored her character on Monday Night Raw is awesome to me, and I personally love it. Can we also just talk about this for a second? And I don't know what the plans are for this, but USA Network basically, and we haven't talked about this live on a stream yet. USA Network pretty much calls Vince McMahon out and says, "Look, you need to make your program and your product more adult and more edgy," and basically is not necessarily holding a gun to his head, but like they're basically demanding and requesting that you make your product more mature. And so far, I feel it's only been 1 week, and the edgiest thing we saw was that TLC when Randy Orton set the Fiend on fire at a pay-per-view, but that wasn't even on the USA Network. So
I was about to bring that up. I was just like, I don't think USA Network controls what is not on the USA Network.
That's correct.
Right. But the thing is, it's just like, what are we waiting for here? Like, what is Vince like waiting on here? I mean, he had it, like, you kind of showed us something, or made like, Vince, you went on the air back in the 90s and said it's our job to give you a more mature product, and you like issued in the Attitude Era with a speech, and you didn't address this widely known thing from the USA Network that they're basically asking that you make your product more mature, and you're doing nothing about it, Vince. Come on, man. Like, when are we going to see that if you're going to?
Before that point, there was a lot of things that hadn't happened that now have. I think he's under a lot of pressure from a lot of people now, and I'm not defending Vince McMahon at all, but I think he was under less pressure then than he is now, because it's not that he's not having a gun held to his head. I think he's having multiple guns held to his head from multiple people.
You gotta keep those investors and everybody happy, or you lose a TV contract, or you lose money.
It's like he doesn't know who to listen to. Because that's the thing, next week on Raw, this thing could start again, and it's very possible that USA Network does have a bit of an influence on what happens at pay-per-views, depending on brand. I honestly don't know. I don't work for WWE, so I couldn't tell you that.
Don't look at me. I don't work for them, and I don't ever plan to, but apparently look for writers, and my friend Greg Cherry apparently signed up for it, so we'll see what happens. This whole dynamic with Alexa Bliss now being this innocent child, almost like she lost a friend, and then these cheap, bad burn jokes. Oy vey. I do love this character work, and I'm curious to see now when the Fiend basically will be reincarnated and what he will be reincarnated. And also, how much does this affect Bray Wyatt as well? Is Bray Wyatt going to show up on the Firefly Funhouse and be like, the Fiend still lives, he's coming back? Are we getting like some sort of rising thing happening on our way to Royal Rumble? Does he show up at the Royal Rumble, cost Orton maybe the Rumble? There's a lot of different ways that this could go right now, and how much more is Alexa Bliss going to play psychological warfare with the Viper? So, again, I think this thing with the Fiend and Orton is far from over, but I like where this is going, and all three actors, Orton, Bliss, and Wyatt, they're playing their parts to a T. I'm actually enjoying this. It's probably my favorite thing right now on Monday Night Raw when I looked at the highlights.
So the only other thing that was on there, like when I watched Raw, was the main event, which was the 6-man tag Miracle on 34th Street fight. You know, it was very, very action packed. It was, you know, it was a little gimmicky, but you know, all 6 men did their job to a T. The only thing I really thought was iffy about it was the fact that there was tags involved. If I see a no DQ environment, that's something I usually I'm looking at, and I'm thinking it probably should be a little bit more of a free for all.
What are the rules? What are the rules? This is WWE. Yeah. Rules don't matter.
Yeah. I see a no DQ tag match, and I think it's going to be more tornado style, but that's just me.
I agree.
But other than that, the match was fine. You know, all 6 men, played off each other really well. There was multiple tables involved. There was some wrapping paper. There was some trees. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, if gimmicky stuff's not your thing, then it is what it is. But what happened at the end was really got me invested, which was they actually tagged in Keith Lee, and he got the Spirit Bomb pin over, I believe, The Miz, which is actually a big deal because he is a former WWE champion. But at the very end, Sheamus actually probe kicked Keith Lee, which ended with a fade out of, just an argument between Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, because he's just like, what the fuck are you doing? I vouched for you. Which is basically just backtracking to what happened earlier in the night with that incidental contact.
Yep, we're getting Sheamus versus McIntyre at the Royal Rumble. Calling it now. We're getting a breakout.
1,000%. 1,000%.
Now these men and you guys probably know this. These men have known each other for a very, very long time.
Yes.
They know each other Drew's gone on record and said that while I was learning that, we met each other at wrestling school while we were working to get to the WWE. These guys go way back.
Yep.
Prior to the failure that is the Chosen One gimmick that Drew McIntyre had. This is way back. So so to see this match happening, I'm kind of happy because we get to also see Sheamus is doing this. Yeah, I want a championship match, but I'm also your friend and I want to fight you, but I'm not gonna be an asshole and I'm not gonna be a heel. These guys are just going to have a match together just to see who's better for the championship. And personally, I love it. Now, do I think that someone like Keith Lee deserves a championship opportunity? Absolutely. Would I like to see him versus Drew? Oh, hell yeah. Way more than I would want to see Drew versus Sheamus. These two guys for the championship is a WrestleMania-worthy match. Keith Lee and Drew, 100%.
Simply because Keith Lee has not taken a decisive loss since he's come to Raw, I would have to 1,000% agree with you.
Shit, I'll call it right now. If Keith Lee ends up winning the Royal Rumble match, I would not be surprised at that one at all. I think that would be fitting, and that would obviously push him into the main event of WrestleMania.
Yeah, absolutely, and he definitely can own that spot.
And if he beats Drew at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship, I think it comes full circle, because WrestleMania this past March 2020 was Drew's time to carry the championship. He's done so successfully for this past year. Now it's Keith's time.
The only thing I would say against that is the fact that Drew McIntyre didn't do this in front of actual people, actual audience. I don't care if the Thunderdome is award-winning. Virtual is not realistic, okay?
And can we talk about that for a second? Where are we status wise? I don't want to get too far away from Monday Night Raw. We got to keep going on to the weekend review and all that. But where are we on the status of moving into the stadium?
Well, he wants to try and bring fans in, actual fans in, as soon as the Royal Rumble. It is not officially confirmed. It has not been officially denied. So all I can tell you is wait and see. But you only can hope, because I know Vince's goal is he wants people at WrestleMania.
Right. Hold on. Let me...
While Pete Googles that.
Doing some research. But no, I think, honestly, I think the point of the Royal Rumble match is going into last year's or this 2020's Royal Rumble, I think we all had knowledge that Drew was going to win that match. He was the favorite, and he was going to win that match. I think it'll be interesting to see what they do going forward. And I honestly don't see. That would be a good decision on Vince's part if he's going to make the decision on who's going to go over and win the Royal Rumble match. Keith Lee's a good bet.
I think I absolutely agree with you. I feel Keith Lee could definitely carry the WWE Championship. Now, how you set up this match to be as big as possible when you consider that both McIntyre and Keith Lee are two major faces, and a lot of time the dichotomy of a WrestleMania main event has to be face versus heel, that's a whole different story. Maybe during February, McIntyre goes full-blown a-hole, but being the, male superstar of the year for the Slammies, as well as freaking babyface of the year for No DQ. I don't know if you can literally just turn the switch that quick. So do you put Keith Lee into that picture this quick? I don't know.
Or another possibility. We Survivor Series back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, had one match that we could also revisit at WrestleMania: Keith Lee versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. Well, that would be a match that I'd also be happy to see as well. Even though there's a lot of talks about seeing, possibly Goldberg return, which we don't want, versus Roman for the Universal Championship. We were supposed to see that this year, and we didn't, because Roman backed out of Mania for health reasons and family reasons.
Respect.
But respect to him, but he came back and he became one of the biggest bad guys and the biggest heels of the 2020 pandemic era. He's making him and Heyman and Jay are making SmackDown must see, and it is undeniable. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what the booking is from this point until the Royal Rumble and who's the favorite to win each match, and definitely want to get into the women's match as well. But Petey, what have you found about the stadium?
So this is as of December 1st, which is just right before they moved, and it's for sportswiki.com, and this was right before WWE moved to Tropicana Field. Big speculations are running around when WWE would eventually plan to bring back fans to their shows. It seems they'll have to wait for some time. The Wrestling Observer newsletter noted that there are currently no plans to bring fans into Tropicana Field. WWE officials told us that right now there are no plans for allowing spectators, even with the size of the facility, which holds 42,735 fans for baseball. WrestleVotes further reported that the current plans are for WWE is to start running shows at Tropicana Field in mid-December. And the shows will continue to take place at the venue through the entire road to WrestleMania season. It was also noted that there's a possibility for the fans to be in attendance for the 2021 Royal Rumble that should also go down at Tropicana Field. Newest plan is to now have the Thunderdome shows at Tropicana Field in Tampa starting mid-December through Mania season. Fans at the Royal Rumble still possible, potentially even at the Trop and TB. WWE is hoping to start traditional live arena shows with fans the night after WrestleMania.
All right, so there you go.
This is 3 weeks ago.
Right, yeah. And again, Vince, he changes stuff on the fly. Vince is going to try and push whatever he feels will bring in the most money.
Well, no, here's the thing. Right now, there is no such thing as long term for anything.
Yep.
That's what people really need to understand across all promotions. There's a reason Impact doesn't have fans right now. There's a reason every single time we see an article talking about the updates on AEW at Daily's Place, they all say the exact same thing regardless of date, and that's that they're not leaving. There's not even a point in reading. There's not even a point in reading them. So.
Well, again, people, they will go for that clickbait on whatever. But speaking of Impact, good summary of Raw. Impact, it was pretty simple. It was the year-end awards. So they looked at the best moments, matches, rivalries. You forget about Eddie Edwards, Sami Callihan's rivalry, been violent throughout the year. We saw, of course, Homecoming, where Rich Swann, of course, he got the X Division championship. And then they referred basically to Ace Austin being X Division Star of the Year, and the North being Tag Team of the Year, considered they held the titles practically the whole damn year. But what really surprised me was definitely one person who came in here with a goal in mind for herself to elevate her game, not to mention talk about making an impact in such a short period of time. After her incredible 30-minute Iron Man match with Jordynne Grace, and the fact she is a two-time Knockouts Women's Champion, within, I might add, the span of less than 5 months, the virtuosa, Deonna Purrazzo. She is not only Knockout of the Year, she was named by the fans of Impact Wrestling as Wrestler of the Year. So kudos to her, absolutely deserves it. Congratulations. She says we're about to enter the era of the virtuosa. I sadly say we're already in it. Now, as far as what's to come, Kenny Omega, of course, once again made a little bit of a photo drop cameo appearance, talking about, his impact, him being the 7-star wrestler of the year, always and forever, talking about the fact that he, with his good brothers, they will be forming now what Dunkaz is simply calling the Super Elite to take on Rich Swann and the Motor Machine Guns at Hard to Kill, the first pay-per-view of the new year for Impact Wrestling. But before that, they also have Genesis, Impact Special, which of course will be highlighted by the Super X Cup. And we got talent from Impact, from NJPW Strong, we got GCW represented, and so much more. I'm looking very forward to this. As of course, to close this out, we of course had another paid announcement by the two most powerful Tonys in wrestling, Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone, who subtly teased they could buy Impact, they have investments, I'm worth $7 billion, blah, blah, blah. But also, okay, Kenny Omega, I could file an injunction on this, but I'm not going to do that. So Impact Wrestling, you want to use the AEW World Champion? Well, I cordially invite you. Come on down to Daily's Place. Come on down to AEW. I'll leave the doors open for you. And, of course, that left the rest of the community clamoring, wanting so much, wondering who could show up potentially on Dynamite. But we'll have to wait and see. This week, I imagine it's going to be more of the same as we look at part 2 of the year-end awards, as is their holiday special, as they've already done everything up to Hard to Kill. I'm sure we'll see more highlights of Rich Swann versus Kenny Omega to come as far as their teams go. But if you ask me, the first person I feel to grace AEW before Hard to Kill, I bet you it's going to be Rich Swann, and he's coming after Kenny Omega. But hey, kudos to Impact Wrestling for another wild year despite this pandemic, and really redefining their roster with what was honestly a saving grace brought forth by what some people call Black Wednesday from the WWE. So, overall, Impact, nice way to wrap up the year. Congratulations to Deonna Purrazzo. I can't wait to see what's in store for her in 2021, and who comes after her title.
Exactly. Now, are we going to? So that Impact pretty much has. I don't think I'm missing anything in regards to Tuesday. Impact owns Tuesdays, if I'm not mistaken. That's
damn right.
That's the only wrestling show. So we're good to move on into the Wednesday nights AEW and NXT. With NXT. Because of the holidays, gentlemen, I will apologize. I'm going to have to refer to the actual official results. Talk about this because I was in the middle of having Christmas. No, it wasn't Christmas Eve. It was just going from work to the parents' house. So we're going to have to go right into, let's see, NXT.
Which was also, by the way, on before Dynamite this time because there was a basketball game going on the TNT Network. So I actually watched both shows live back to back. And honestly, I wonder, could that be a better fit maybe for Wednesday nights, or do you move NXT? Pete, I'm going to bring this question to you. We've seen what happened with TNT when it comes to basketball games, stuff like that. We've had We've had AEW specials as late as 12:30 the next day. This time we had an actual episode of AEW Dynamite, pre-recorded I might add, after the basketball game. And so far it's really rattled up the community in more ways than one. Do you think that AEW should continue that path more often instead of being in the 8 o'clock block against NXT?
That's an interesting question because we have the Celtics and the Bucks game on Christmas Eve, but NXT has times when they're in a similar funk because they have hockey on USA as well. So you often wonder is, because they may have times when they have those same scheduling conflicts. If it wasn't for that, I would say absolutely. Honestly, for the sake of both promotions and taking the quote-unquote war out of the equation, I will go ahead and say what I've been saying for this the whole time and say that maybe it'd be better if NXT just went ahead and switched days. And I would say that Thursday is probably the best day because, like, right now it doesn't seem like anyone's holding that day, like, at least in the prime time spot, hostage.
There's nothing primetime wrestling wise as far as I know on a Thursday night.
You can make the argument that NXT was already there because they were technically on the network, but no one's going to go for that. Let's just have NXT go over there and be done with it because then that's just going to be another war that people want to fight.
It feels like no matter what choice here, as long as NXT and AEW are a conversation, there's always going to be a war to discuss.
There's a sect. There's a separate. There's a bunch of people that are like, well, NXT wasn't as good ever since they moved off the network and went right on to the cable television. I'm like, that didn't make any fucking difference.
Go watch that last woman standing match between Asuka and Nikki Cross and tell me that.
Enough said.
But it doesn't matter because it's that little bit of fraction of the IWC that thrives off of conflict that's ruining pro wrestling and made me want to kind of I blamed it off of the way that wrestling was when the pandemic first started and we didn't have fans and I kind of was having to adjust to it. I originally blamed that, but it was originally the IWC. And that makes me sound bad because I co-host a wrestling podcast, but it's true.
Well, here's the thing, though, Pete. You're not a journalist. You're not an analyst. You're not being paid for this. We are just simple fans that are voicing our own opinions through a forum that we created. So however you want to cast us, the bottom line is this. We are not defined by anything else nor anyone else, but there's always going to be somebody to judge us as we judge them. And again, that's just always going to be a thing. IWC, wrestling community, non-existent community, simple, standard, common community, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. It's always going to exist. It just comes down to how you interpret it and how you are affected by it.
I thought it too.
Simple Man just has references out of the ass tonight because he just did the whole...
On instinct.
But my name's Billy. It doesn't matter.
What did I say? I'm a lifelong fan of wrestling. What can I say? Anyway.
But to answer your question, if it's not going to be TNT with basketball, there's going to be times when it's USA with hockey. So, there's going to be times when that sort of method where NXT after or before AEW could work, but one of the two is going to have another sport that's going to come in and kick them in the ass anyway. So, it's going to be a tough hill to climb regardless, at least while the pandemic is going on. But I like the idea. I do like the idea. If it wasn't for hockey, I'd love it.
All right, well, there you go. Mr. G, do you have your notes up?
So in regards to NXT, gentlemen, let's run through it briefly. We have
a
squash match between the tag team champions of Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch versus Killian Dane and Drake Maverick. You have to be blind, deaf, and dumb to quote the salt of the earth MJF to understand that these guys are going to get their asses whooped. The tag team champions came out victorious on that one. Enough said. Isaiah Swerve Scott defeating Jake Atlas. Personally, this has been one of those things that has piqued my interest a little bit because we see a character in the cruiserweight division go from the straight and narrow path to the wide and broad. we have somebody who's considered a good guy show a little bit more of a heelish character in Isaiah Swerve Scott. And personally, I've loved it. And Swerve found a victory Wednesday night because of this new attitude. So if this possibly whether this means a match in the future with a cruiserweights and Isaiah Swerve Scott's no longer gunning for the title, just beating up the good guys, who knows? But the point is, Isaiah Swerve Scott is showing a little bit more character, a little bit more attitude, and it paid off. He picked up a victory. Rhea Ripley, I will sing her praises all day long, picking up a victory against Dakota Kai. And she is having her sights set on a last woman standing match to quote, and by quote I mean it's I say the word quote loosely because damn, I can't even think of his name right now. The host of New Year's Evil. Help me, gentlemen.
Dexter Lumis.
Thank you.
Is it Dexter Lumis? Okay.
I say the word quote loosely because the man doesn't talk. But to quote Dexter Lumis, we have a last woman standing match in the sights, in tunnel vision between Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez. And the cool thing that happened for me personally, gentlemen, was I basically went to Twitter. I went on the Twitter machine and I said, Rhea, weren't you talking in an interview recently about how you wanted to work a stipulation match with Raquel? Didn't you just speak reality into existence? And I got a like on Twitter from the Nightmare for that one. So that was pretty cool.
Nice.
Anywho, we have a last woman standing match. We haven't seen that since Evolution. Think
Correct.
about that. And we haven't seen Evolution since Evolution. So this is unknown. This is not unknown, but this is new territory for the NXT Women's Division, and I love it. Personally, this is kind of hard for me to say, but the way things have been going, I just see it as what's going to happen. Personally, I see Raquel picking up the victory on this one.
All right, fair enough.
I agree.
Because I think Rhea is building Raquel up so that so that when the Royal Rumble comes around, we see Rhea in the Royal Rumble and possibly Rhea wins it. That's just how I see the booking. I kind of see the writing on the wall. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe Rhea wins this and who knows? Mercedes Martinez might win the NXT Championship from Io. I have no fucking idea. But Mercedes Martinez with a return, and blindsiding Io. Didn't see that coming. I'm just thankful Mercedes Martinez is not in Retribution anymore.
Raquel Gonzalez could be in the Royal Rumble as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
you gotta think about both ways, but also it does seem like this might be Rhea Ripley's send-off to basically put NXT forward in who could be their next juggernaut. Because right now, Raquel Gonzalez, she's had a hell of a year.
Exactly. Getting the victory for her team in the War Games match. I think a last woman standing match and a victory there over Rhea Ripley would, throw her into the new stratosphere. Now, how the whole dynamic between Raquel and Dakota happens, that's to be determined.
And kudos to Kai taking on Rhea by herself, by the way.
Yeah,
Great match.
Because Raquel was banned from ringside, thank God. Bronson Reed with a strong return.
Not surprised.
And winning over Ashante v. Adonis. Yeah, I think that was just a squash match. Still, a victory is a victory and a strong return. He hasn't lost a step. Leon Ruff pulling a victory over Timothy Thatcher. Again, continuing the story between Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa. We're doing storytelling here, gentlemen. NXT is doing storytelling. This is something that Raw needs more than anything. They're doing it on SmackDown, particularly with the Roman Reigns. and Jey Uso and Paul Heyman. Anything they touch is gold because they're like master storytellers. Raw needs to learn from this.
Agree.
Let's see. Okay, Tyler Rustin. I don't even know who Dan Navarre.
Malcolm Bivens.
Okay. Velveteen Dream coming out of the woodwork and getting beat by Adam Cole. Baby. But why? Honestly, I didn't need to see Velveteen Dream back on NXT. Personally, I just thought the man had given up. To be honest, because of the.
I thought they gave up on him.
Me too.
I don't know why.
It's like
I personally don't know why this happened.
It's like let's take all the other shit out of the equation for just a second. Why would they have him come back and have this big epic return, and then have him go down to Adam Cole? Like,
no idea.
That is the most illogical booking NXT has done in a while.
On the subject of Adam Cole, we need to not on the subject of Adam Cole in the Undisputed Era. This brings up. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. We got a recent alert that Pat McAfee's been written off of WWE television. He was quick to go on the Twitter machine and say, "Looks like I got fired on Christmas." Personally, I don't know why Triple H would do this, why WWE would do this, because Pat McAfee, that man has gotten props and notoriety from the one and only Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, Stone Cold put Pat over as being a hell of a promo. I watched the Pat McAfee show when they had Stone Cold on there, and I love it. It's on my favorites on YouTube. It's like one of my liked videos. I have a playlist of 1,100 videos of liked videos, and this made the cut, because Pat McAfee and Stone Cold Steve Austin are talking to each other, and Stone Cold put Pat over. And personally, and I might get a lot of heat for this, but the Pat McAfee leading Pete Dunne and Birch and Orkin, like, hell yeah, I'll put Pat McAfee over. As an athlete who basically, he gave everything to that match with that one-on-one match with Adam Cole, baby, and then the War Games match. I'm like, why are you writing this guy off of your television show? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I think about it like this. Chris Jericho, he took New Japan Pro Wrestling to storm when he faced Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom, which you subtly told me you recently watched at Wrestle Kingdom 12, and he lost. However, he said that he would never come back to Tokyo again. Fast forward, and literally Chris Jericho shows up again to take on Tetsuya Naito in a feud. Now, this is the Twitter machine versus the GOAT, Chris Jericho, who literally told us this versus a tweet that you read. Okay? So, whether or not Triple H is being Cerebral Assassin through Twitter, trying to really fool the fan base and set up Pat McAfee for another big-time return somehow, or this truly is real as your own personification, but I truly do not think we have seen the last of Pat McAfee in WWE.
Now, Noah, you were in a big opposition of this. We have an upcoming match with Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly. If we do not see Pat McAfee sticking his nose in this match, or kind of blindside, having fit the winner of this match blindsided, especially if it is Kyle O'Reilly winning the NXT Championship, and him and his goons finally, because they haven't attacked. Remember, they attacked every member of the Undisputed Era except Kyle O'Reilly. So if
they attacked Kyle O'Reilly.
Huh?
They attacked Kyle O'Reilly.
Yeah, Pete Dunne did, remember?
But what I say in the War Games match, sure. But I'm talking about they took out Adam Cole, they took out Roderick Strong, they took out Bobby Fish. But the one person who left the building unscathed was Kyle O'Reilly. This is when they were not taking them out to the point where they had to make the big return for War Games. I'm talking about prior to that. They took out 3 of the 4 members of Undisputed Era, the exception of Kyle O'Reilly. I'm thinking if Pat McAfee is going to return, he's going to have his guys take out either Kyle O'Reilly or Finn Balor and make his intentions clear that Pat McAfee is gunning for the NXT Championship. Whether or now he's a hell of a promo, he's an incredible athlete, and if he can hang with the boys, why not? Why is this has to be something that's shamed upon? Noah, you were slapping your head a million times asking why. I'm asking why now. Why not?
Yeah. Why not make the Simple Man dye his hair blonde?
Oh, yeah. Well, besides that, they thrust Ronda Rousey to become the Raw Women's Champion within
That's probably why.
4 months.
That's probably why it was written off.
I don't know if they would thrust Pat McAfee as NXT champion. Yes, he has a great promo. Yes, he has really proved that he can go in the ring. But I don't know if they are ready and willing to put Pat McAfee as the guy to hold NXT. If anything happens at New Year's Evil, Kyle O'Reilly and the Undisputed Era will never be the same again. Some angles gotta go down with O'Reilly or the Undisputed Era following that match. And I don't see Pat McAfee involved in this at all. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, to your point about Ronda Rousey, you're right. She was rushed into it. That's probably let's say it's not a work. That's probably a big reason why it was written off, because they probably want to, slow that process so that if they do want to have him win the NXT championship,
or at least go for it. Or at least go for it. And make it believable.
But on the subject,
so they want to time it properly.
But on the subject of Ronda Rousey, can we think of a rivalry, her and Becky Lynch, there hasn't been anything as great since.
As buzzworthy as clamoring for the WWE Universe, you are absolutely correct.
Why they threw Charlotte in there, I have no idea.
He's a genius. It's such good shit.
You guys aren't going to like me for this, but I actually didn't have a problem with Charlotte being thrown in there.
Yeah, and here's the thing I was thinking about recently. Don't give me here's the thing. I don't think I've ever got on this show and talked crap about Charlotte Flair. I love Charlotte. I think, even though out of all the 4 horsewomen, she's number 4, okay? But I'm not going to talk shit. She's still amazing, and she's still an incredible. She's a 11 time women's champion.
Here's the way I'm choosing to look at it with the WrestleMania situation. Charlotte getting thrown in there, particularly the suspension aspect of it when Vince came out and suspended Becky Lynch, it made me want that for Becky Lynch more.
Mm-hmm. And she got
it was the suspense.
It was the suspense whether or not Becky.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but before that, it was just a match. It would have been a good match. It would have been a fantastic match, but now there's a story attached.
And I saw what happened with that story, because we literally saw as Becky was hobbling her way to take on Charlotte in an all-or-nothing bout at Fastlane. Ronda basically came in and screw you, Charlotte, I want this. DQ, Becky's in.
She should have thrown a few more punches in there. While she literally just threw one punch to cause the DQ. That's one thing I
saw that live. I saw that live. I saw Ronda Rousey live. That was awesome.
She should have made it be hey, I actually want to beat the shit out of you.
Well, I would have loved to see a Ronda Rousey beat down, but I'll take just seeing her. That was awesome.
One thing we might never see, gentlemen, is Becky Lynch and Ronda one-on-one. We were supposed to get that match at Survivor Series 2 years ago, and we might never get it.
Well,
but before we go, transitioning, Simple Man. We want to move on from NXT onto AEW, and while you do that, I'm going to the tank is full, gentlemen, and I have to unload the bladder. So, Simple Man, cover Dynamite for the fans.
Okay, before we go into that, Pete, do you have any further thoughts regarding NXT that you want to discuss?
I don't have anything for now, man. All I know is that I honestly think that the Pat McAfee thing is a work. I think that Pat McAfee, being in his 30s and everything, being that he's a lifelong wrestling fan, I think he's somewhat of a traditionalist. It wouldn't surprise me if he went up to Hunter and been like, hey man, why don't I take a break for a while and we just kind of like tell people that tell people that you fired me, and basically try to, because what if they're, I feel like they're always going to try to keep kayfabe alive. I think that's always going to be a thing. At least they're always going to try to be it. Look at all like the traditionalists out there, like FTR. You really think they're ever gonna accept that kayfabe is dead?
No. I don't think they ever will. And I think they're one of many that will never accept that as dead. Not taken as serious or pushed to the screen to the point that people can actually take it as kayfabe. I think they feel like kayfabe needs to be recreated.
They're building the same house with a different set of tools.
Exactly.
The internet. Same with Shawn Spears. That's kind of why I don't think that's why I don't think he's actually left AEW.
Yeah, which leads me to my first thought about that.
To your point though, to my other point though, I think this is going to lead to him coming back further down the road, so that it's timed better. Him winning the NXT Championship, you dyeing your hair, and sending me $100.
Wow.
Which honestly, the $100 is probably going to be the bonus. I want to see you blonde.
Oh, Lord help me. I've never dyed anything in my life, but we'll see. Anyway, speaking of Shawn Spears, this AEW Holiday Bash that took place after that game, despite being 10 o'clock at night, I really enjoyed it. I thought the wrestling overall was very consistent, and there was some subtle promo work. So they started off, of course, with a face that everyone would recognize, both casual and new, Chris Jericho. As Jericho and MJF, they took on this up-and-coming young team, Top Flight. Good opening match, but thanks to Hager interference and a Heat Seeker DDT-type maneuver by one MJF. The duo got the win, but what was interesting here is that Hager became very vocal, talked about the inner circle, but also voices appeared about how he believed Wardlow doesn't want to be part of the inner circle. Are you taking this as serious? Okay, well, let's see how serious you are. He challenged Wardlow to a one-on-one match next week on Dynamite, aka this week, and that's actually going to happen. What MJF's like, hold on, wait a minute, and Jericho's like, he wants to do this. So again, more of that subtle storytelling about, okay, how's MJF and Wardlow fitting in with the inner circle? Feels like MJF right now, he's really finding his place, becoming more comfortable with everyone around him, including, as I saw they go backstage, he confronted Santana and Ortiz, who were playing cards, basically counseled and comforted Santana, who recently went through a fatal loss himself, to the point that, again, his degree in theater almost makes him seem like not an asshole. And literally, they embrace each other and handshake like, respect, keep your head up. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I can't wait to see how he stabs him in the back.
I saw that segment. So you're talking about when MJF comes back. Wait, and I heard you correctly. MJF has a degree in theater.
Yeah.
I genuinely did not know that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's got a theater work behind him, so it is legit what he was doing there, pretty much. Goes off those skills. That's why you were able to buy into that. I think some people were, anyway. But moving on from there, we also had Sting! He subtly teases a little more about what he's here to do in AEW. Be among the jungle, how to be back in the jungle, and then, of course, he points towards, one Darby Allin. And as Tony tries to get to the real question, Shivani, by the way, what are you here to do? Who comes out and tries to spoil the moment and take control but Team Taz and their bitter old self. And literally it looked like Team Taz was going to attack Sting on a 4-1 assault, only for one black light. Come back. We have Sting and Darby Allin in the ring together with a baseball bat and a skateboard. And literally Taz like, okay, we're going to take the higher ground because Darby, you already got your hands full. You faced the Machine for that TNT title on January 6th. Sting will catch up to you later. But it seems like Will Hobbs is not afraid of either of these men, nor is Brian Cage. Brian Cage was like, I'm already set to fight. I'm ready to fight now. So I feel like what they're going to do here, they literally are going to use Sting as a manager for Darby Allin, and I think people are just clamoring for that so much. I don't think it's so much the fact they want to see him wrestle. They just want to see Sting and Darby together because they see a lot of connective possibility with these two. While you are smiling like a Cheshire cat.
Stands together because that's like, it's like Darby is like, I'm going to be real and honest about this, gentlemen. Darby is like the son of Sting. He's like, they're literally like father and son sitting against each other. I can just see the segment now. They're sitting next to each other in the bleachers, and Sting just is like, kid, the jungle is yours now. Go get him.
Yeah, you're the king of the jungle. Okay, I get what you're saying.
It's just like it's a father and son moment, and but it's also aesthetically pleasing. The two men in face paint that sit in the bleachers, and they're mysterious and ominous. And one of them happens to be the TNT champion.
That's fair.
But also let's not play down here. You also have the Team Taz and all these, just continuously talking shit. It's not getting them anywhere. But I agree. Like, fans are clamoring for this partnership. But I think fans are also focusing on the stare downs, the what they're looking like, what the eyes are saying between these two guys. Whether this means an actual partnership between Sting and Darby Allin, we'll see. And if it does, how long does it last? To be determined.
Yeah, and I feel like January 6th, Team Taz and Sting will not be far behind from that TNT title match. Just subtly saying. Moving on from there, we finally are going to learn the end to this wedding angle, hopefully, as the boss man, Miro, he finally gives us the date, but not before the best friends come out. Psych! Apparently something happened where Trent was taken out, actually ran off TV as we learned, but Trent was taken out, and Chuck Taylor or Chuck, I don't know his last name, I guess, and Orange Cassidy can't believe it, and they subtly laugh at this. Trent apparently is going to be gone for a few months, by the way. He is legitimately injured, folks, so damn. But apparently, on a special AEW Dynamite called Beach Break, the first Dynamite in February, we are going to have the first AEW wedding, hosted by the Best Men, for Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford. What's the worst thing that can happen, gentlemen? Just saying. Oh, good lord.
Triple H. He hates.
If you don't mind me cutting you off real quick.
Go ahead.
Who did you just say was injured?
Trent.
Trent Beretta?
Yep.
Of the Best Friends?
Yep.
Oh, fuck.
Yep.
So that sucks. Can we really briefly? So the worst thing that can happen,
a passed out Stephanie McMahon getting married Mr. Will.
Well, at least Kip and Ford actually love each other and are married. So this is just, like you said, kayfabe wise some angle. Hopefully it unleashes Miro from this. That's the number one thing I want.
I can see. So if I may, I just had a random thought.
Oh no.
You know how Miro and Lana were kind of having fun playing off, their storyline in WWE. Lana was making out with Bobby Lashley and all that bullshit.
Oy.
I think we might get an angle, and this might be a crazy thought, gentlemen, but hear me out.
Not every wedding was bad.
I'm about to say, right. No, I agree.
But then listen, hear me out.
I'm going to listen to you.
What if we get a segment back, we cut some footage backstage, somebody brings up some footage of Miro, the Best Man, making out with Penelope Ford. That might happen.
If you can get Kip Sabian to clear it, all bets are off.
Yeah.
I think Miro's down to do anything. I mean, he's allowed to have a jacked, muscular man, and a good-looking man nonetheless. Bobby Lashley, make out with his wife. Miro is okay to do anything.
Hey. And that Bobby Lashley-Lana wedding wasn't a total loss. We got one of the best wedding photos ever, which was Rusev popping out of the cake, showing us his Brian Pillman face, as I like to call it.
Yeah, and that got turned into a meme and a GIF galore and so many more things. And also, the one thing that he did not want to do was erectile dysfunction, but we already talked about that. Moving on. As Dynamite continued with the in-ring action, FTR challenged Jurassic Express after they took out the Dark Order. But I will give credit. 5 and 10, they really come well together as a tag team. 5 came this close, I thought, to actually winning after Isolate Marco Stunt. Jurassic Express won in the end with the assisted wheelbarrow into the body powerbomb move by Jungle Boy. But FTR, they're basically trying to come back out to the Young Bucks and prove why they're the best tag team. They are going to face Jurassic Express in 2 weeks. That should be a good, subtle match. Moving on from there, we go into what was probably my favorite match of the night, as the Bastard Pac took on the Butcher, of course accompanied by Eddie Kingston on commentary with the Blade and the Bunny, yay Allie. And this match was really good, as it was just an all-out slug affair as Pac tried to fight from under against this brutal beefcake of a man. And literally at one point, Pac Irish whips the Butcher to the barricade, just let stay alone. He just big boots the guy in the freaking next week. Call the Bunny and Eddie being distracting galore. The Butcher, he turns Pac inside out, upside down with a clothesline. Difference maker, though, as Eddie Kingston was getting annoyed at one point. Who stops Eddie dead in his tracks to the point Eddie is hiding behind JR in commentary? But the Murder Hawk, Lance Archer. Because of this, Pac was able to fight from underneath, hit the Black Arrow, damn it. And he did beat the Butcher. This battle, this war of families, it continues. And then following that, Dustin had a short match with Evil Uno. Both the men had a pretty good singles affair. Running Bulldog Dustin wins, as of course Evil Uno tries to recruit Dustin as number 7. Yeesh. For the Dark Order, Dustin says no. Stu Grayson unleashed, but Stu Grayson is stopped from attacking Dustin by Evil Uno. And then QT tries to come into play, and Evil Uno knocks out QT with an injured hand. Then Big Shy Lee, a.k.a. Lee Johnson, newest member of the Nightmare family. I know, God help me. He gets the last word in with a springboard drop kick off the top rope, taking out both members of the Dark Order. So I honestly feel like right now they're teasing maybe Evil Uno and Stu Grayson splitting up, while Evil Uno's trying to focus on this whole recruitment, tirade to get Heyman, Adam Page, and Dustin now. It's like Stu Grayson, he wants to focus on maybe himself, maybe the tag team isn't working out. I feel there's more than meets the eye here to be teased. So I'm curious where this is going, because I feel like Stu Grayson could definitely do a singles run, especially if Anna Jason in his corner, considering what I've seen on BTE.
It's heavy. It's just for me, gentlemen, it's just heavy to hear the Dark Order being talked about with the recent loss of Vertically, and just being honest.
Again, I'm just wondering, 2021, what awaits the Dark Order? John Silver, step up, man, like you did this year.
Hey.
Anyway,
we need JDP back on the show. Jack, come on, brother.
I mean, again, I can't. I'm wearing a suit, so I'm not gonna flex. All right, because I probably, Anyway, moving on, going off the rails. Hikaru Shida prepares to get to in-ring action, only to be attacked by Abaddon backstage, and then finally makes her way out to the ring after Kylan King lost to Tessa Price, damn it, on AEW Dark in a pretty good match, and it was, it was Tessa Price versus Hikaru Shida in the middle of the ring. Alex Gracia, botch. Alex Gracia beat Kylan King. Alex Gracia, Pink Dream, hope they sign her. Also, again, in relation with Scorpio Sky. Basically, Hikaru Shida makes quick work of her. It was not easy, though, but there was Abaddon at ringside who definitely took Shida's attention. At one point, Shida attacks Abaddon at ringside and nearly gets counted out. Alex Gracia capitalizes on this for a nice power move near fall, but Hikaru Shida, Falcon Arrow does the deal, gets the win, attacks Abaddon afterwards as she looks dead on the freaking barricade, literally pokes her with the kendo stick. And then Abaddon, basically, she wakes up like some out of a horror movie, attacks Shida, traps Shida in the barricade, and literally bites her freaking neck. I'm like, what the hell is this? And when are these two going to confront each other? So it was made official that this week, Abaddon will finally face Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's Championship. And I have a feeling right now Shida is definitely psychologically rattled, but probably more physically intense and angry. Just saying. Moving on from there, Jade Cargill, again, she wants competition, but the main thing of the show here was the main event, as the Young Bucks took on, for the AEW Tag Team Championships to be defended, the Acclaim, who of course are out to make a name for themselves in this game. And I'm not going to drop bars and rhymes because I think their act's kind of lame, John Cena 2.0. But anyway, I will give credit to the Acclaim. They really brought a good fight here against the Bucks. And at one point, you literally thought they were going to win here when a ref got inadvertently taken out with a super kick party. And literally they used boombox, low blow combination to get the closest near fall in the match. In the end, the Young Bucks, though, they pull it together, BTE trigger, and they get the win, and we go off the air with that. Knowing that next week we have Kenny Omega versus Ray Phoenix for the AEW World Championship, Hikaru Shida versus Abaddon for the AEW Women's Championship, and also Warlord versus Hager as well. And also, just to subtly tease Kenny Omega, he was basically going to a hotel lobby. He basically talks about Ray Phoenix and how much he's choked this year, tag teams and single-wise. what do you think you're going to do against me now that I'm pissed off? I'm going to injure you and maybe postpone your career. Sorry. But hey, Merry Christmas. You get to challenge the champ. As, of course, Don Callis, Kenny Omega, they continue this whole dynamic of, leading by example. Kenny Omega is the best in the world. Don Callis is here for Kenny Omega. Blah, blah, blah. And mostly that was Dynamite. For a pre-recorded holiday show, I thought the wrestling was consistent. I thought each match had their own vibe to it. It didn't feel like the same stuff over and over again, unlike other places. Just saying. I like the storytelling that's being told throughout the show. They're definitely doing more with the women's division. And overall, I'm just curious now what awaits Sting and Darby Allin come January 6th. But more so, what is next for the Dark Order? Okay, guys, talk to me about your thoughts on AEW.
I have one question. Go ahead, Noah G.
Okay, so don't mind me. I'm just chilling like Deadpool. Like I'm literally sitting like him in a leather chair right now. My question is, I tuned into something very important in regards to not just AEW Dynamite, but also being the Elite. I don't know if you guys are caught up on that, but something recently caught my attention, and it's in regards to SCU.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, they are fact check me on this. They are the inaugural AEW Tag Team Champions. Am I correct on that?
You are correct, but originally
Kazarian and Scorpio Sky.
Yes, originally it was supposed to be Christopher Daniels Kazarian, but lately Christopher Daniels, he has been in a bit of a slump to the point Kazarian's like, let's go with this one more time, all or nothing. But the next time we lose as a team, we are done, we are through. That was from the waiting room on AEW Dark. You are correct.
I'm thinking that we might see a heel SCU because of this. If they pull off a win. If not, they're split, obviously. And we might see if this is tension between Kazarian and Daniels, maybe we see they just boot Scorpio Sky out the mix and we see the return of Bad Influence from TNA. Who knows?
I wouldn't mind seeing Bad Influence. I did enjoy that team in TNA with their run and stuff, despite the whole AJ Styles storyline that we will not talk about.
Who remembers the segment between, this was back when Bobby Roode was back in Impact, and he was teaming up with Austin Aries, and he had Bad Influence. You know what I'm talking about, Noah.
Of course I do.
They had a segment in the ring where Austin Aries looks at Kazarian calls Austin Aries a dirty vegan, and Austin Aries basically says, "You guys put the meat in your mouth because I don't." I laughed my ass off.
But he's not wrong, because Austin Aries, of course, he doesn't do that. But
and Bobby Roode legit broke character, and he's jumping up and down like a 5-year-old boy on Christmas.
I don't judge him for that. I judge him for being a shitty human being.
Don't blame you.
With SCU. Don't know what that whole thing is going on here, but personally, I want to see these guys as heels again, and I want them to run down the 1,000 people in attendance. This is the worst town we've ever been to.
Considering it's the only town right now they can be in.
Right, exactly. This is the best time to boot that catchphrase back up again, because it's like this is the worst crowd we've ever been in front of. Let's get a heel SCU. Pete, I don't want to hold you. Don't want to hold you back, my brother. Go ahead.
I'm just curious more than anything else. Is Scorpio Sky officially no longer a part of SCU?
As far as I know, they are all still SCU, but Scorpio Sky is the one who initially wants to pursue a singles career. Right now, he's at a bit of an impasse, especially with the fact that Shawn Spears, and forgive me for not bringing this up, Shawn Spears and Tony Schiavone have a sit-down interview as Shawn Spears, he tries to really figure out himself. There was one key statement here where Tony Schiavone says, well, maybe where you're at now and the slump that you're in, have you ever thought that maybe you are the problem? At this point, Shawn Spears feels insulted as he claims he is one of the most talented guys in AEW. And right now, AEW, they should be, really pushing him to the moon forward. Look at his win-loss record. Why isn't he involved towards a championship? And basically, he feels just insulted to the point he has left. And now it's been said that AEW has removed Shawn Spears from their roster. So to answer his question, Scorpio Sky is still a thing, but he's focused more on a singles pursuit. But since the whole Shawn Spears thing, I imagine now is closed, I have no idea what's next for the guy.
and I believe he said he'll come back, and I quote, "when I feel like it."
That
I
is
feel like
correct.
if this was as big of a deal as translated, it wouldn't have been put in a public forum. I don't think Tony Khan would have allowed that.
Nah. And again,
That's
Tony
my
Khan, a fan of lifelong for wrestling with 25 years worth of writing he already had before AEW was even a thing. Who knows which direction he's taking this Shawn Spears thing? But I think it's safe to say the glove gimmick, I think, is about to die.
Thank fucking God. I feel like he's trying to be Seth Rollins. I don't even like it when Seth Rollins does it. Like, but here's the thing: Shawn Spears, more specifically Tully Blanchard through Shawn Spears, is a traditionalist, and I feel like, you know, and we talked about this while Noah G, you went to the bathroom. Like, do you really think like Tully Blanchard is going to take somebody on and not impart that knowledge he's been, you know, going through for the past like 40, 45, 50 years?
Absolutely.
Like, I believe that kayfabe is instilled into Shawn Spears' skull.
I agree.
I believe that this is going somewhere. The only other things that I have to say about AEW is, one, was my girl Dr. Britt Baker on the, anywhere on this show?
No, she was on Dark on the waiting room, and she felt a little annoyed that she didn't get to say anything as SCU basically took it over. So, nope, she was basically taking a break for the holidays.
That's good. You like that?
That's fair. But we all know what's waiting for Dr. Britt Baker at DMD, and that is a very furious Thunder Rosa.
Thunder Rosa. Other than that, I don't really think I have anything else.
There you go.
Good. That was all I needed, was to find out if my girl Britt Baker was on the card.
Well, I'll just say this in closing. I think Hikaru Shida is retaining her title because I still think the next champion is Dr. Britt Baker. One way or another.
I do too. She's got a client. I think she's gonna eventually beat Thunder Rosa, and that's just gonna make her. That's just gonna do like great things for her. Because
no doubt.
That's the thing. She's not very high up as far as rankings go, and if they want to take those seriously, like, she's got to do something about that. But at the same time, I feel like, Thunder Rosa is worth a few more points as far as that goes.
Well, considering Thunder Rosa's name, I mean, if Britt Baker goes over Thunder Rosa, that's only going to elevate the AEW Women's Division identity and Britt Baker.
Thunder Rosa,
but it won't be easy.
She's officially signed with AEW. Am I correct on that?
No, not yet. It has not been official that she is #All Elite. She's a freelancer. In fact, she'll soon be facing Allison Kay in a steel cage.
Wow.
On an independent show next year. I'm looking forward to that.
Cage match.
Speaking of things that have yet to be booked, you got to believe that right after the first of the year, maybe closer into the middle of the month, they're going to start booking Revolution.
Yes. What will be our key story going into that? Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention about next week, too. Jon Moxley will be speaking. Now, whether or not that's actually on Dynamite or a video, here's something to consider, gentlemen. He lost the AEW Championship. We haven't seen him since. He's going to have a lot of words to say, and whether or not he has a rematch clause with this, or they rebuild this for Revolution, I have no idea. But also, there's still that foundation, because you guys know what I watch. He still holds the IWGP United States Championship, and Kenta is waiting for him in that briefcase. Might I add, Kenta will be defending that briefcase January 5th at Wrestle Kingdom against Satoshi Kojima, which should be a very interesting match. But something tells me, before February, we're going to get either word acknowledgement or even confrontation of Kenta versus Moxley. Now, whether or not that happens at New Japan or AEW, your guess is as good as mine.
Here's my thing. I think if it was going to be a live appearance, they would have directly said that. I think it's going to end up being an interview, but it doesn't matter. We're getting Moxley regardless.
Yeah, and he is going to have a lot to say, I'm sure. All right. No, do you have anything?
Regardless.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Jon Moxley, you tune in, period. I literally, before we started this, I was watching Jon Moxley versus Minoru Suzuki from New Beginning back in February this year. It's one of my favorite matches New Japan Pro Wrestling had. Y'all have to go watch that if you can.
Minoru Suzuki is a fucking psychopath.
Kasa Ninare, the king of all of pro wrestling. Anyway,
I at one point dabbled in New Japan.
Go ahead.
do it.
Are you pointing to me?
No, I'm just trying to pull off a Kenny Omega pose from back when he was in New Japan.
Goodbye and good night. Bang.
Bye and good night.
And he says it now. So I mean, again, as far as Revolution though, why you think about your New Japan point, I think I know one of the matches going into it because we keep teasing this idea of Impact and AEW, whether confronting or working together. I seriously think, gentlemen, we're going to get the Young Bucks versus Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows for the AEW Tag Team Championships.
Yeah. Yo, that's some elite on Bullet Club shit right there.
Well, look at what happened this year with Revolution. It was an all-elite tag team affair with the guys of being the elite, and they got Match of the Year from it.
Yeah.
Now you got Bullet Club versus Bullet Club, 2 inaugurations of the elite, one led by a heel, Kenny Omega.
Hold on a second. And yeah, we need to address that briefly. Kenny Omega with Don Callis in tow, with the Good Brothers behind it, basically said we're going to get the old Bullet Club together. When we all know that the Bullet Club is still a thing over in New Japan, being
Correct.
led by Switchblade. It's not as prominent and in Providence as it used to be, led by either Finn Balor, AJ Styles, Kenny Omega. I don't know I think Cody Rhodes ran it at one point.
He didn't. He wanted to, as he challenged Kenny Omega for leadership, which led to a Bullet Club Civil War with him and Page on Cody's side.
The best way I can put this, and I mean this in no disrespect,
Go for it.
the Bullet Club is a lot like Saturday Night Live cast, where it interchanges a lot. Some spots are some members are
OG forever.
Some members are better than others.
You could have said they were like the NWO. That would have been the biggest insult. So you weren't really all that offensive. So
Well, here's the thing.
Oh boy.
The Bullet Club at least lasted longer than the NWO.
That's true.
I gotta give him credit there.
Yeah, you're not
And here's the
wrong
thing.
there. But also, they're not going to be called Bullet Club. Apparently, they're going to be called Super Elite. So again, Super Elite versus the Elite. I see that being a storyline for Revolution. Now, was that your only thought? Now, was that your thought, Pete regarding New Japan, or did you have something else in mind? As Wrestle Kingdom is literally next week.
All I said was, hey, I dabbled in New Japan for a while. I'm
Super
good.
Elite. Clearly we see who's a fan of Dragon Ball Z here. I mean, what is this? Super Saiyans?
Well,
That sounds-
okay, hold up here. Don't you be... Okay, look, that is one of the greatest, if not the greatest animes of all time. Dragon Ball Z, by the way. Not that Dragon Ball GT nonsense.
I'm just saying, come on, Kenny.
It sounds like the Wolf Pack to the Bullet Club's NWO.
Possibly.
It's good, but it's not as good.
Look, people have said all the time, AEW brings vibes of WCW, TNA, and now they're trying to work, basically, with Impact Wrestling and NJPW. They're basically a melting pot of all things wrestling.
Yeah, I love it.
Me too. Again, you want to see Deonna Purrazzo show up and challenge Sheeta maybe for the title. Maybe that will happen. I don't know.
DD 2 belts. I'm still a fan of it.
You're just mad that Deonna Purrazzo is out of the friggin' tag tournament. And apparently Deonna Purrazzo...
I'm not. I wanted Deonna Purrazzo to have 2 championship belts, and I want her on AEW television, and I want that woman to be successful to prove the point that
they
WWE
protected her.
capitalize on her.
And now
They protected her in that tournament.
And now we got Deonna Purrazzo versus Taya Valkyrie coming up for the Impact Knockouts Championship. That should be a good match.
But hey, to be fair, they protected her in that tournament. She did not take the fall.
I agree.
She is, and she is everything that she says she is. She's the greatest technical female wrestler, and I believe it when she says it.
Enough said. And as far as NXT UK goes, because you guys know I watched that, it was another best of. But the key thing here, Jinny is claiming her case to be the next NXT UK Women's Champion. Will it happen? Will she get past Piper Niven in this Falls Count Anywhere match coming up? I don't know. I still think Ayla Valkyrie deserves it more because she's undefeated. But I digress.
Is Jinny a babyface now?
What?
Is Jinny a babyface now?
Gina? Jinny?
Jinny.
Hell no. She's
So
still
say, I don't think Kaylee Ray is.
no. Kaylee Ray and Ginny are both heels in NXT. Now, who's the bigger heel? You be the judge.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's like a match between Chris Jericho and MJF. You have two heels going one-on-one against each other. Like, you can do that, and it would still work.
They did at Full Gear. Just saying. But that was AEW.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the 2 championship matches next week and the Battle of the Juggernauts, Wardlow and freaking Jake Hager. That should be very interesting. But more importantly, what is Jon Moxley going to say on a Friday?
Let's go to SmackDown. For God's sake, let's move on. Pete.
Are you ready for a good time?
Yep.
All right. So, again, yeah, boy, took notes.
Attaboy.
So
Good on you.
it opened with a steel cage match for the Universal Championship between Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. This I actually liked because the match was good, and you always want to open with a good match. If you're not last, you want to be first. If you're not Rock and Roll All Night, you want to be Detroit Rock City. Bubba Ray Dudley said that on Busted Open, and it always translated with me. But more than anything else, that also meant main eventing was the Intercontinental title match between Big E and Sami Zayn. And I felt like that was a foreshadowing of how they were going to be treating Big E going forward, but also how they were going to be possibly treating the Intercontinental Championship going forward. I could be wrong on that, but we'll get there. Let's start off by talking about what happened in the cage match. It was brutal. It was psychologically brilliant. It made both guys look very good. It showed off all their strong points. It was well timed. Showed their respective ring awareness, particularly in a cage, because that's something that is different in just a standard ring.
Correct.
Because it's a different environment overall. KO once again looked like a star, even in defeat. Showed that Roman may have chinks in his armor, because that's something we haven't really seen all that much of since his heel turn. Like, he's looked virtually invincible. I was genuinely convinced at a couple points that Kevin Owens was actually going to win this match. Before Jey Uso got involved.
Well, again, family.
And then so I really didn't take specific notes on this one. But then so there was a lot of high spots, particularly there was a springboard frog splash from Kevin Owens, and there's a few other ones like multiple stunners, multiple spears. Now, this is an example of areas where, if they wanted someone to kick out of a finisher, I don't necessarily mind. I don't mind if that happens all the time. They just can't get super ridiculous with it. Like, no offense to Shawn Michaels. I mean, no disrespect to him whatsoever, but the super kick is now a little bit less cool because, guys have been getting a little bit carried away with it.
Oh, yeah.
And I hate that because that's my favorite finisher ever, but they've disrespected.
Conversation from last week. We're recapping that. Again, wrestling moves that are used just for a point, not for an end, defeats the purpose.
Yes.
Right. Now, Shawn.
This finisher, again, psychologically, fucking brilliant because it made Roman not just look like, because he doesn't need to do this, but he chooses to do it, and it just makes him look not necessarily like a coward, but just like an absolute asshole. And I love it. So, and I think you guys both know what I'm talking about. So, not Jimmy Uso, but Jey Uso takes handcuffs and handcuffs Kevin Owens to the cage while he's still laying down, and he just barely doesn't have enough slack on the handcuffs to try to have his feet reach the floor of the cage. The way it's done is absolutely fucking brilliant. Roman Reigns gets up and he's like, huh? And he's just walking out. He's looking him right in the eye, and Kevin Owens is like, "You can't do it, you bitch." He's like, your kids should be ashamed of you. You should be ashamed of yourself. And he's literally just walking, staring him in the eye while he's walking down the steps, and he just just gingerly walking it out. I'm like, I fucking love this. This is awesome. So yeah, that's storytelling right there.
So do you think that now Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns is over at this point? How much more personal can we get here? How much crazier can we get?
I honestly don't know. Like every time Jey Uso gets involved, like it's hard to tell because like when someone doesn't win clean, you wonder if there's another chapter to the story.
Right, but now that's 2 times in a row for the Universal Championship. Kevin Owens has lost in gimmick matches.
That's the thing. It could. I mean, that's the thing. There's always the Royal Rumble, and the fact that I don't know makes me love it even more.
Agreed. Though I still think Daniel Bryan, despite the fact I guess he did declare himself. I still think Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns is an idea. I thought it would happen in the Royal Rumble, but if Daniel Bryan has declared himself for the Royal Rumble, I gotta be honest with you, that might be my pick to win the whole thing.
It's very possible that they may have missed the boat on The Rock.
Possibly.
And I hope that's not the case, because I gotta be totally honest with you, man. I love Daniel Bryan to death. I really, really do. But I do not want him to win the Royal Rumble match.
Oh, no. But do I want him to challenge Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship? For sure.
It'd be cool.
Yeah, at least once. Daniel Bryan is wrapping up his WWE career as a full-time member. He wants to go part-time to focus more on literally his family life as a father.
Yeah. And if he was behind the desk, if he was like with the pencil in his hand, which he basically already is, because like when he like came back and was like, I'm like pretty much wrapping things up. I kind of thought he already was. I kind of thought he already did.
Yeah, me too.
But I don't know where we go from here, and I haven't felt that way in a long time, and I miss that feeling.
I like that suspension of disbelief.
I'm not gonna question it.
Me neither. I'm just gonna watch. There's a reason why I watch SmackDown Live. I'll be honest with you. I watch SmackDown Live. I don't watch Raw Live.
So now Asuka and Charlotte show up, announced for the first time that they it's announced for the first time that they're actually defending for their first time title defense. They're interrupted by Bayley, and she says, and I'm paraphrasing, while 2020 sucked for everyone, it didn't suck for me. She's then interrupted by Sasha. She said, let's talk about who is champ right now. And then out comes Bianca Belair, who says her initial jargon about how she's the EST, she's the fastest, she's the toughest, she's the smartest, she's the, all that stuff. Out comes Carmella, who calls them all bitches. They brawl, and then the match happens. So,
two things
I don't have everything written down, so I'm kind of going off, results, because I didn't watch all of SmackDown. I'm going to be totally honest with you.
Two things I want to say about that briefly. There's a snippet that was cut out of the show. Sasha, in her entrance, drops the title belt on the floor, and Bayley points and goes, "Ha ha, you dropped it." And then Sasha looks at the camera
Nelson
and
from
says,
The Simpsons. Okay.
Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about because we're 3 Twitter jabronis. So that happened. And then on top of that, what happens during mid-match, and people were shitting on this match, by the way. I was involved in a Twitter debacle.
Oh, here we go.
In regards to this match and why Bianca and Sasha were in this match to begin with. But the point being, the fact that Charlotte is mocking Bianca in this match made me laugh. That was a good giggle. The whole, how Bianca does the glute slap. I'll say that to be reserved a little bit. How Bianca does the glute slap during her when she's taunting, and then Charlotte's doing flipperoos in the ring and mocking her. Mocking Bianca. I found that
flipperoos. Wow. I don't know if anyone has ever used that word.
I don't think well, Paul Heyman says flippy doos. I mean, that's
flippy doos.
All right, fair enough.
But yeah, no, that was good analysis. Awesome.
All right. That women tag team triple threat championship match. Okay. I mean, Carmella and freaking Natalya, we're pairing, eliminated first. The whole idea of Bianca and Sasha as a team, I hope that means that these two will be more vocal with each other, interchangeably backstage, build towards that big money match that clearly has to come. And then, of course, you had Charlotte and Asuka retain because, well, who's going to take the titles off them? Interesting.
At the moment, who knows?
I mean,
it's hard to tell.
They've been on Raw now. They've now been on SmackDown. NXT.
Yeah. And then Daniel Bryan ended up defeating Jey Uso. It was a pretty good match. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about it except, except it was a good match.
All right, fair enough.
There's not a lot. Now comes my favorite part of the evening that I actually took notes for. Big E versus Sami Zayn in a lumberjack match for the Intercontinental Championship. And they actually pulled lumberjacks from both brands. Now, I know people are religious, when it comes to, the whole brand split and, trying to stick to it. But for this particular case, I wasn't really all that mad about it, simply due to the fact that when it comes to a ladder match, the more the better. So if they need to pull more folks from the other brand to make that happen, specific names for this isn't really a big factor, so I wasn't really all that concerned. So they went ahead and did that, and I was all for it, especially considering the fact that they're filming from the same place. So it wasn't like I didn't know that. It wasn't like they weren't already there.
that is actually true. You want to people actually consider the consideration. All right, go for it.
So let's talk about this for a second. About 5 minutes in, Big E was tossed out of the ring. And lumberjacks immediately were involved. Specifically, Steve Cutler, Wesley Blake, Baron Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, and Bobby Roode. They didn't waste any time getting involved. It was, they made you believe it was a lumberjack match. That's one thing I really liked about this. Sometimes they kind of just go, "Whoa, leave them alone." I'm like, don't fucking do that. It's a lumberjack match. You're supposed to attack them. You're supposed to attack them, get back in the ring, and that's it. And then, they, for about 2 more minutes, they kind of, Sami Zayn and Big E kind of had a little bit of in-ring competition in there. And then Sami Zayn eventually got tossed out, where he eventually met that same fate at the hands of the Street Profits, Apollo Crews, Otis, and Chad Gable. And then eventually they got tossed back in. Big E, they fought for another 10 minutes, and then which led to some stuff on the outside where Big E missed a massive apron splash, leading to more lumberjack melee, and a tope con hilo from Sami Zayn, which I have not seen from him in a long time, and I missed it dearly. This was the old Sami Zayn that I had been wanting from for a long time. We talked for about a month back about how we felt like we're seeing the manager Sami Zayn just wrestling for a really long time.
Yes.
I didn't see that from this particular Sami Zayn, except for like one other spot, which I'll get to. I will get to that. The pussy Sami Zayn, as we, we'll get there. There's
a word drop for
you. So Sami eventually tries to escape, thrown back in. Pokes E's eye, and then goes for the cover. Big E obviously kicks out. Sami eventually goes to the top, and then it's met by Big E with a power struggle, which leads to a sunset flip powerbomb by Sami Zayn. Obviously, goes for the cover, and Big E kicks out. And then he misses a haluva kick where E does a spear through the ropes, leading to a inter-lumberjack melee. All the lumberjacks just beat the shit out of each other. Sami Zayn uses this opportunity to try to hightail it, and who decides to try to stop Sami Zayn from getting out of there? One Apollo Crews, and this is that pussy spot that I was telling you about, Noah G. And basically, him, Otis, Gable, and the Street Profits all literally carry him back into the ring. This leads to Big E being more than ready for him. Hits him with the belly-to-belly suplex, splash, big ending. 1, 2, 3, and he is your new Intercontinental Champion.
I called it.
You got the confetti and all of it.
I called it. I knew he would be the. I called it.
And on this note, fans are
you
still
see clearly.
clamoring. Fans are still clamoring for Big E, and possibly because this has been the year of the double champion. We since the likes of the Ultimate Warrior, we have not seen an Intercontinental Champion holding a world title simultaneously. If it's going to be anyone, it's going to be Big E. I'm going to be blunt and honest about that. I think this puts Big E on the trajectory towards a WrestleMania match with Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. It might happen.
I think Paul Heyman does too.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Heyman has heavily put over Big E on Talking Smack. You very well might be on to something.
I literally got done watching that right before I hopped on this chat. He paraphrased the New Day and said, "It's a new year." Yes, it is.
Yep.
It was great.
I think it's going to happen, personally. But it's WWE. We all know it's subject to change at the very last minute. But I think at this point, Big E has a rocket strapped to his back, and I think the man is going to. It's quite possible that he could be walking out of WrestleMania as both the Intercontinental and Universal Champion. And you know, we have, and I think this is it's pretty incredible that, you know, just take a look at all the champions that are in the WWE currently. I mean, like, it's pretty awesome to think about this, to see what all the people that are becoming, everybody that's becoming champion in 2020. You know, people are getting opportunity, which is exciting. Not everybody, because Noah and I will die on the fucking hill in regards to Cesaro. Okay, the man deserves to be a world champion.
Thank you.
Like, you know, so yeah, whatever. Big E walking out, both Intercontinental Universal Champion. Boys, how do you think about that? What do you think about that?
I think there's potential in that, and Big E also is a guy that has not won the Royal Rumble, but we'll have to see, because again, we'll have to see what Big E wants his legacy to be. Now that the Intercontinental Championship has a new carrier, it's about time to see if Big E can literally turn this title into what it once was. The workhorse title, the one that elevates talent, that one that people should want before the WWE Championship, or in this case, the Universal one. Even though I still can't stand the Universal Championship for reasons. But anyway, I think you definitely are onto something there. I would not rule it out. And considering we've already had unprecedented things happening on WrestleMania, Cinematic matches, NXT Championship defense, 2-night WrestleMania, I figure anything's possible at WrestleMania this year coming up.
Yeah.
I would agree with you on that.
Somebody wins the Royal Rumble, they could challenge for the NXT Championship, like what Charlotte did with Rhea Ripley last year. And the main event and that match, the result of that is debatable. Some people will say that it was the right result. Some people will say that it wasn't. I'm one of those people that think it wasn't. I honestly think Rhea should have pulled the upset. But anyway,
that's not the only match people are going to say WrestleMania ended on a bad note on. Shayna.
That's one of the reasons that Rhea should win. That's one of the reasons Rhea should win the Rumble.
Exactly.
People think Shayna should win the Rumble too, but at this point, I don't know.
This brings up a very important conversation that we've had on this show during a live stream. In the match between Sami Zayn and Bobby Lashley, champion versus champion at Survivor Series.
Oh God, here we go.
Bobby Lashley was the babyface in that match.
Moving on. I'm not going through this again with you.
We ain't getting into that.
I'm not going through this again with you. The only thing I'm gonna say about the past, let's focus now on the fact that, guys, we are in the genesis of just creating a podcast and talking the shit about all things wrestling. It's been a wild year. 2020 has offered a lot of greats and what the fuck moments. Deep demonetized, but whatever. We're not paid by anybody. So let's just go around and figure about 2020. So let's go ahead and figure about WWE's 2020 first. They had to really get creative here, and while they've done some incredibly stupid booking decisions, you also got to give them the benefit of the doubt that they really have pushed the envelope when it comes to what they can do with the resources allowed around them. Given this virtual fan showcase with the Thunderdome, and really this has become the year of cinematic matches. So with that being said, we've already seen the Slammies, okay? They talk about match of the year. It was a cinematic match. So I'm just going to subtly ask you all, do you think that was the cinematic match of the year, the Boneyard match? And if not, what was your choice? Pete, I'll start with you. In a year of cinematic matches, what was your favorite and least favorite?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Boneyard match. And part of that, there may be some bias involved because of, with Undertaker being my favorite, me having a sore spot in my heart for it. Now, as far as like the best thing that WWE has put out this year, I don't think it is, because that happened, before the pandemic happened. and a lot of it had to happen, and a lot of it happened had to do with the fact that they just caught lightning in a bottle, and maybe that's a conversation that we'll be able to have before the show ends. But as far as the best cinematic match, yeah, I do agree.
I look at cinematic matches. I think about the cinematic matches we saw this year: Boneyard match, The Final Beat, Extreme Rules Horror Show, Climbing the Corporate Ladder, Money in the Bank.
The Firefly Funhouse between The Fiend and John Cena. I think that is honestly a significant runner-up to the Boneyard match.
That was like Rocky Horror Picture Show. Let's do the time warp again, because we got all the different sides of John Cena. The Fist even showed up that used to be on SmackDown. That was not. That was more like a movie than a match. That was weird.
He did the Too Sweet in NWO gear, mocking Eric Bischoff, like mimicking Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan, which was fantastic. Like
freaking Bruce Pritchard.
Akin to what fans will say about John Cena being the modern day Hulk Hogan. Like that was good. That was good.
So your favorite? What would be your? So is your favorite also the Boneyard match? Then Noah G.
Here's the thing. Yes, I will say that because this was a perfect send off to the legend that is the Undertaker. I think it did it justice. Listening to what Taker had to say about that match, it literally he got to play 3 different characters throughout the match. He got to play who he is in real life as Mark Calloway, the American Badass, and the Phenom that is the Undertaker. You get to see all 3 different sides of the man in that match, and he comes out victorious. A win over the greatest professional wrestler in the world today, and that is AJ Styles. I mean, and not to mention, this is a match that was initiated and a concept that was initiated by AJ himself. I mean, AJ called Taker up and said, "I want a match with you at Mania." I mean, so I mean, like, I think when you consider the real what happened behind the scenes, and then amid this, changing midway through because of COVID, and still we have this amazing story being told in this amazing match, and it was personal because of the promo that AJ cut about Michelle McCool. I mean, like, come on, man. Like, I think not only was this the greatest cinematic match, but this was a hell of a story. And I would agree with Petey. Like this, I would put that match over. And for the Undertaker's last match, I'm gonna knock on wood because I love Taker. Do I wish he was at 100% and he could still be the Undertaker that we saw at WrestleMania 25 and 26? You're fucking right, I do. Is that going to happen again? Probably not. I mean, I think Vince, don't get any funny fucking ideas. Do not call this man out of fucking retirement. Let him live his fucking life now.
Oh,
Let
Lord.
him do his fucking thing outside of the wrestling business. We do not need to see him in a ring again. Just let him be. Let him be retired.
Here's the thing. You want an idea? Because I know I've been hearing some rumblings about it. Let him be a coach.
Let him work in NXT.
Yes.
Quite frankly, there's been way more flops as far as big man go than successes. I can count maybe 3 that have been like Keith Lee, Drew McIntyre, and maybe one other that have been successes, at least within WWE. I would love to see him work with the bigger guys in the company, and really just work in NXT in general. To have Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and the Undertaker all working together in NXT, that would like, there's nothing that they wouldn't be able to accomplish.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine the heights we would get with some of the talent? I mean, we already see how high Karrion Kross is, but the Undertaker influence on Karrion Kross, maybe Aleister Black can finally show up again in NXT, and Undertaker revives him or something like that, because again, he's MIA.
Not only that, but it would be hard for Vince to fuck that up.
Right, because he doesn't control NXT. Triple H does, thankfully. So I get that.
I still have the message that Noah sent me on Twitter where he's like, NXT is, because there was rumblings around that Vince was taking over NXT, and the thing that you said to me was, NXT is doom. It's not doomed, it's doom.
The freaking teacher from
So-
Invader Zim. Doomed. But yeah, I agree with both of you. Boneyard match was definitely the highest for me. A perfect send-off for The Undertaker, celebrating The Undertaker's legacy and career on all fronts. And AJ Styles and him, it was impromptu. It wasn't the match that was supposed to happen, but for what it was, I thought, very well put together, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Honestly, probably one of my top 3 favorite things overall from the 2-day of WrestleMania. And as far as the biggest flop cinematic match, that's I think I gotta give it to the horror show. I'm still confused for the way they did the ending. Like, there was no definitive conclusion. It seemed just bubbling out water. You got Braun Strowman dealing with Bray Wyatt in the chair for a little bit, and then you have this idea of Sister Abigail being Alexa Bliss. It just felt weird to me. It felt beyond hokey. Yes, I understand the Money in the Bank probably didn't work out the way people wanted on both fronts, but they gave you some fun highlights of the inside of the WWE Titan Towers, and there was some humorous moments there.
Fun.
I thought that was fun.
I enjoyed every second of it. Honestly.
I thought it was weird that over half the people didn't make it to the top of the building, but regardless,
I love the way they made fun of Vince.
I mean, literally, Vince showed up, and all he said was, "Out!" Because friggin' Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles intruded in his office. And hey, he was being safe, social distancing, doing hand sanitizer, so I mean, I can't fault the man for that.
Anyone was ready for the pandemic, it was Vince McMahon.
No, without a doubt, let's be honest. Now, the fact that you ever see Vince wear a mask, though, that'd be another thing. Okay, so good talk on cinematic matches. Now, let's go ahead and look at this highlight. This has been the year led by WWE and AEW when it comes to fan perception of professional wrestling, sports entertainment, and what you can do under the worst circumstances. AEW, they've tried to push the barriers a bit, but they've had their moments too. Not to mention concussion-based situations that surrounded one Matt Hardy. That really was a dark note, brought a lot of backlash to AEW to the point people don't want to go back and rewatch AEW All Out. You also look at WWE, though, who have had multiple circumstances of COVID cases exposed in the weirdest of ways, including at one point Kevin Dunn being against the talent wearing masks. Now, beyond protocols, you look at the in-ring action, everybody I feel like did their best, but there have been some bad booger decisions among both AEW and WWE. So I'm just going to simply ask you this. Who do you believe had an overall better 2020 as a company? AEW or WWE? Just between those two, despite the fact you watch other stuff and other wrestling too, hence me. So I want you to think about everything that's happened this year. What company gave you the higher expectations and the better year as a wrestling fan? What company can you look back at this year and be like, thank you, I appreciate both of you, but this one left me wanting a little more and I could go back and see more of this too? Noah G, I'll start with you. What company impressed you more this year, AEW or WWE?
Here's the thing. I hate to be the one that says not option A or option B, but option C. Here's the thing. I would say now between these two, I would say AEW definitely left me wanting more and definitely impressed me because this was their first year. It was their inaugural year. And with the COVID situation, or with the circumstances and the unfortunate circumstances of COVID, I think this is the company that still is, allowing live fans in to view their events. I mean, and not only that, but they're still telling credible stories with world title changes and, title changes with the TNT championship. And, with the exception of their women's division, they still have work to do. We can all agree on that. Mm-hmm. But I'm also opting in option C because let's talk about the other show that we've talked about thus far with our weekend review. Impact Wrestling has stepped the fuck up this year.
You're damn right. I will not discount that.
They
need to kick access to the curb.
They have brought in so much new and old talent with the Motor City Machine Guns making their return to Impact Wrestling, and make the Good Brothers making their debut, establishing a credible tag team division. Rich Swann being the world champion. Deonna Purrazzo, who I will die on the fucking hill for again, being a 2-time Knockouts champion. They have stepped the fuck up in 2020, and I would say I'm wanting more from Impact, and now that we have this new partnership with AEW, whoo, Impact is going to, like, not to quote fucking Cameron Grimes.
Cameron Grimes.
Cameron Grimes going to the moon.
There it is.
So I mean, like, they have left me wanting more, and now that they have this partnership with AEW, I'm wanting more Impact stars to be seen on AEW, and more AEW stars to be seen on Impact. Like, I'm wanting that. So and they've definitely stepped up. And now that this thing with Don Callis and Kenny, and Kenny Omega, that partnership, whew, I'm wanting more from both shows. So I got to give it to AEW and Impact Wrestling.
I like that. Okay, so let me go ahead and throw this dynamic to you, Pete. So he basically put in an option C. You talk about a lot of NXT and WWE maybe interfacing with each other more. Do you think more of that should happen in 2021 beyond the women's tag team titles? Should they be involved again as a WrestleMania choice, both on the men and women's side? And overall, also, give me your thoughts on who basically gave you a better 2020 as a fan. Just your personal opinion, WWE or AEW?
So to answer that first question, if they can, obviously yes, because from what I heard, the big reason that Survivor Series didn't feature NXT was part of the like them taking COVID precautions.
Correct.
But if they can, 1,000%, because part of bringing NXT into the stratosphere, making it more memorable, is what we saw last year from Rhea Ripley coming in and defending the NXT Women's Championship at WrestleMania. That was the first time ever that an NXT championship of any kind was ever defended at WrestleMania. Win, lose, or draw. That was the first time. Rhea Ripley will always have that, and it's for that reason that, as far as an NXT Women's Mount Rushmore, that Rhea Ripley has one of those spots filled in my book. But to answer the second question, as far as who has impressed me more in 2020, NXT or WWE or AEW, that's a tougher question than one might think, because obviously, like, WWE's made some questionable decisions, but they've also had some very good ones. Let's talk about the first awesome thing that happened in WWE in 2020. The return of one of my absolute favorite professional wrestlers growing up, the Rated R superstar, Edge.
Yes. Yes.
You can shit on WWE all you want, but that's just, I cried that night because I didn't think I was ever going to see him wrestle again, and I saw him coming out, and I didn't even know what the fuck to say.
I'm glad that happened with live fans.
I saw him live last year at SummerSlam just make an appearance before SummerSlam even started, spearing friggin' Elias. How did you think I reacted when that buzzer went off and Edge literally came back to in-ring action? Enough said. But continue.
But I will say this. AEW, a lot of people didn't give it a chance. A lot of people thought it was, going to be dead in the water. And they proved them wrong.
Big time.
I gotta give it to AEW, especially with a pandemic. A lot of people thought, like, even with fans maybe they would have stood a chance, but they didn't give it a chance with a pandemic. They thought maybe a WWE could do it because they've been in the business for 1,000 fucking years.
Give or take.
Give that a chance to a company that hasn't been in the business very long. They proved them wrong. So that says a lot. Let's go beyond booking. Let's go beyond all that other shit. Let's go beyond the fact that they are a newer company, and they are, braving these harsher circumstances. That says a lot. Like, you got to say something to that. So that's the way I'm choosing to look at it. And so there's so many people that have benefited from going through this company, and and this isn't me talking shit about WWE, because I love WWE. I grew up idolizing WWE as all three of us have. But sometimes a company just isn't. Sometimes, just like any other job, sometimes it's not for everybody.
That's right.
And just like Jon Moxley, he he decided WWE wasn't for him. He went to AEW and it worked out because he didn't want to. He didn't want to like go to a place where like he was just known for having a sense of humor. And obviously he's a funny guy. Like I like hearing him drop those one-liners during promos and everything, but like we want to know him for being, you know, an in-ring competitor.
Right. And not just a deathmatch wrestler either. Let's also not just classify him as one thing.
Right. But the moral of the story is like they braved something that they shouldn't have been able. They quote unquote shouldn't have been able to brave, with how long they have been around, which is not very long. And they were, let's call it what it was. They were the underdogs, and they managed to make it work. And that's why I say that they've been the most impressive.
I have to agree with you just alone from the pandemic era with the way that they interpreted it. Why I appreciate WWE's effort with the whole performance center dynamic. For a long time, they focused mostly on nostalgia and just relying on the past to keep the fans invested. While AEW took, like you said, these big-time risks to basically treat every week still like a standard Dynamite. Not to mention the added idea of a heel-face real live crowd dynamic with their own talent on hand. Just those business strategies alone, not just the various, fun circumstances AEW has offered creative-wise for us, who they brought back as far as nostalgia goes, and who they've reinvented as far as careers goes, but just the way AEW has handled themselves in their literally just over, and this was even before they were 1 year old, AEW Dynamite was, I gotta give it to you as a fan of pro wrestling. Out of these two, AEW definitely left a better positive impact on me. And the fact they're trying to bring back the territory days too, partnering and working with a collaboration of Impact Wrestling, NWA, they still have that working relationship with the Triple A. I know that people want to see New Japan.
Is that what you just
Triple A. And then also we of course have this whole idea that maybe NJPW might get more involved with this too. AEW is trying to open the doors back to what was high when pro wrestling was at their highest, and that's collaboration, not necessarily competition. With that sort of idealism and dynamic in mind, I feel that they really can change the business for the better, only make it better. Like Jon Moxley says, AEW, it's great for the industry. It's not like they're greater than WWE, but the overall positive impact and idea and foundation AEW has set since Dynamite existed and has only grown over time from cameos, etc., you have to give it to AEW, who's left a better, bigger, positive impact for me as a fan, though my number one will always be NJPW. All right, so good freeform talk. Now I'm going to leave it to Noah G to segue to his own segment.
Now, hey, appreciate that. Now, one of the things that this brings up, and Petey, you mentioned the return of Edge as being a highlight of the year 2020. One of the things I wanted to ask is what was the match, the particular match that stuck out to you, and what was the greatest match of 2020? Because we had a lot to highlight this year, whether it be the world title defenses of Jon Moxley, the match with Eddie Kingston. I think the build up to that, I'd say, was pretty notable, as in storytelling wise. But I got to give it to the match between Edge and Randy Orton. My God, like this was, I mean, They faced each other twice this year, if I'm not mistaken.
You are correct.
The first one, the
WrestleMania Last Man Standing?
The Last Man Standing match.
Really?
I would say that was the match of the year. I mean, Taker puts this match over as one of the most, the best match of this modern era.
I think it was the Backlash match he put over, but
it was the Backlash match that Undertaker put over. But continue your thoughts. I'll say my thoughts once you're done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did you just botch yourself?
Backlash was. I'm sorry. I retract my previous statement. Backlash was the match that they put over as the greatest wrestling match ever. That was it.
Okay, so you botched yourself. Botched!
I botched myself. This is what I meant to say. Because, yes, it was not the greatest wrestling match ever. That's a handicap going up. But it was still a good match because they actually they did a lot of tributes to the greats. I mean, I'm pretty sure they put over Eddie Guerrero in this match. I mean,
one of them did 3 Amigas.
They were pulling out all the stops. So this, I would say, that was the greatest wrestling match ever from Edge and Randy Orton at Backlash. To me, that was my favorite, in my opinion, the greatest match of 2020. PD, I'll go to you. What was the match that stuck out to you as the best match of this year?
Now, I just want to hold on here. Is this just WWE or just in pro wrestling in general?
Oh, in pro wrestling in general.
Okay.
So, are we going, like, I was going to say, like, are we going, like, across all promotions when we have this conversation?
All promotions, dude. You and I watch a lot of wrestling.
Because that's what has the most of my attention.
Part of me, like, feels obligated to have a Cody Darby Allin match, considering it made me go viral. But I don't know, man.
Yeah. If you off the reaction to that one.
But to answer your question, I've got to go with, man, that's tough.
Yeah.
That is really tough. It's a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
Because there's been some good ass matches.
Yeah.
I may have to go with Orton and Edge.
Ooh. Hey. Well, I'm glad I'm not.
AEW's put out some really good ones. If it was anything from AEW, I probably would put Moxley and Kingston. But you know, it's just a tough question to answer. It's tough to narrow it down to just one out of 12 months of the year when you think of how many matches go on between multiple promotions.
And how many promotions there are too. Not just Impact, Ring of Honor, AEW, NJPW, and WWE. Those are probably the big 5, though.
You almost wonder if it's easier to just abstain.
Well, you could just say one from each, because I'll go on a whole spiel about matches, but I'll just keep it simple. I'm against you two. I still say the best match this year, from overall storytelling to I don't know which way this is going to go, to moments and the timing of them, to emotional investment, it's still the Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page at AEW Revolution for me for those AEW Tag Team Championships. And that probably to this day is the greatest tag team match I have ever seen. Simple as that.
It's a good match.
Damn.
As a matter of fact, I'm changing mine. Mine is from AEW, and it is a tag match, but it's not that particular one.
Oh, okay.
It's from Full Gear. It's Young Bucks versus FTR.
That was my second! You talk about a tribute to tag team wrestling with those two teams. That tweaked me did rejoice.
You really tempted me to go off the charts here and talk about segue into another topic completely, because you said that was the best tag team match I've ever seen. Well, whereas Young Bucks and the tag teams of today, we'll talk about the people that they grew up watching with, like Arn Anderson and Tully
Blanchard, Midnight Express. I'm well aware.
Oh goodness, the Road Warriors, the Steiners,
Demolition,
Heart Foundation,
DIY,
NXT.
Yeah, well, they're more recent than the ones I was talking about.
Fair enough, but you get what I mean. It was a tribute of tag team wrestling's past, present. What's up?
Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov.
Thank you.
They won the tag titles at the first WrestleMania.
That's right.
To be fair, they had help from Freddie Blassie.
It was Freddie Blassie that helped them. You know, a bunch of puzzle nut cakes. Come on now.
One of the greatest managers of all time. Think about how many fans probably don't know who the fuck he is.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. Let's be honest, okay? There's a whole demographic that don't even know.
What are you talking about?
Who managed Yokozuna?
Mr. Fuji.
Mr. Fuji.
Yeah, you guys got it right. I didn't know. I knew he
What? You didn't know Mr. Fuji? What's wrong with you?
But the tribute that WWE recently did for Yokozuna, I found it personally touching, and that would be me. That would be what I would bring up to talk shit to Roman. If I wanted to get my ass beat by Roman Reigns, I'd bring up Yokozuna.
so yeah, they're doing a they have a new WWE series coming out called WWE Icons.
Yes.
One of the people they're doing it on is Yokozuna. I think they have one for Medusa, if I'm not mistaken. There's
Correct.
also one for Rob Van Dam. One for Lex Luger. Who's another one?
I think Owen Hart and Bret Hart are also in it too.
British
Bulldog, yes.
That's the one I'm looking forward to. Dude, his son looks exactly like him. It's creepy. It's creepy, dude.
All right, well, that's saying something. Well, yeah, I mean, and again, you think about matches of the year, honorable highlights. I mean, I watched New Japan Pro Wrestling. Tetsuya Naito, Kazuchika Okada, they set the bar for professional wrestling, a story ton over 7 years, and they ushered in an era of double gold. They've rolled with it this entire year, and for the most part, it's been pretty damn good. Impact Wrestling, I still loved Deonna Purrazzo versus Jordan Grace in that Iron Man match. But speaking of Iron Man matches, Pac versus Omega in February, where there's 15 minutes of no falls, it seems, and you're wondering who's going to pick up the first fall. And it ended up going to overtime, too. That was probably my favorite TV match, next to maybe the parking lot street fight with Proud and Powerful versus Best Friends. And then I go further to Impact Wrestling. Just recently on Fire Resolution, I think Chris Bay and Rich Swann literally had match of the year for Impact Wrestling, because those two tore it up. And literally, that match could have gone
Chris
either
Bay
way.
will be a world champion.
Oh, without a
really
doubt.
do
There's no
believe
doubt in my mind. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if he becomes Impact World Champion next year. But I feel like Moose is going to take on Rich Swann first before that happens. Now, whether or not Moose wins, because people think Moose is still an uncrowned TNA Impact blah 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 World Champion. Your guess is as good as mine on that one.
Do you think that Moose shows up in AEW?
That would be interesting. Who would he confront? I don't know necessarily. I see Moose.
Moose confront. No offense, but they have shown him like unofficially calling Chris Jericho on the phone on Impact.
That is true.
He's never mentioned him by name, but I've seen that footage happen.
Well, Chris Jericho, the king of innovation, I would not be surprised to see a Moose versus Jericho program.
He's like, yo,
I lost my belt. Oh, that narrative thing with EC3. That was crazy.
I do have an honorable mention for this particular category, if that's
Please
okay.
do.
Go ahead.
Great American Bash. Adam Cole versus Keith Lee.
Ah, yes, the title for title.
Oh, yeah, man.
That was special. That was very special.
Outside of the actual attack, I pretty much called how this match went, frame for frame. Karrion Kross didn't actually attack Keith Lee, but everything else that happened, I said it was going to happen, and I was just like, I was right.
Yeah, there you go. You watched from afar. He watched from afar, and Keith Lee made history.
And in hindsight, I'm glad it happened that way instead. Considering who it was, I'm glad it happened that way.
He deserved it.
If it was anybody else, if it was any other character, I probably would have been okay with them attacking him. But Karrion Kross, just doing it that way, it made more sense.
Noah D, do you have any honorable mentions as far as your match of the year across wrestling?
I would agree with that 100%. The only thing I'll mention in regards to Keith Lee is, I think his call up after losing the NXT Championship to Karrion Kross was way too quick. And
that happens, and unfortunately that does happen.
I agree.
That's a good runner-up. Hopefully Keith Lee gets his hands on a championship in the main roster now that he is on Monday Night Raw. But we went into that a little bit earlier.
Agree.
But no, I would agree. That's a good runner-up. I think also. It happened fairly recently, but it's still a great match of this year. Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly. My
Jesus, they destroyed each other eternally.
Literally, it injured Finn Balor.
He had his jaw wired shut.
He's barely cleared.
Yeah, that's
Right.
why he hasn't been wrestling. And now we're getting the rematch again at New Year's Evil. NXT bringing the hits to usher in a new year. Before I talk about some more NXT stuff, I do want to subtly mention WWE just put out an article about their top 25 matches of 2020. To save us time, I'm just going to go through WWE's picks for the top 5 in order, starting from 5 all the way up to 1. Number 5 was the Intercontinental Championship ladder match at WWE Clash of Champions with Jeff Hardy, AJ Styles, and Sami Zayn. Number 4, Drew McIntyre vs. Roman Reigns Survivor Series.
Oh yeah.
Number 3, Edge vs. Orton, the greatest wrestling match ever from Backlash. Number 2, Sasha Banks vs. Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship Hell in a Cell with a blueprint. Finally got the Grand Slam done and the title. And the number 1 match of the year, as done by WWE staff, I imagine, it was the Boneyard match.
All of these matches deserved to be ranked very high, and I felt like an asshole for forgetting about these when I was, thinking about my top match. I'll give you that.
Well, again, like you said, go ahead, Noah G.
They put the SmackDown Women's Championship of Bayley and Sasha over. They put that ranked higher than, what was the number 4? That was number 3, right?
That was number 3, I believe. Let me go back
What was
to it.
number 4?
Hold on, I got you. Oh, by the way, I am a disgrace as a fan for not honorably mentioning this. Walter vs. Ilya Dragunov. That right there is
I
the
forgot
definition of a freaking physical war for a championship.
Yeah.
I'm actually glad
so
there wasn't any fans in there. I loved hearing the echoes of the
The
shots,
match
man.
itself told the story. The fans did not have to contribute because they weren't there, but we were watching on as we heard Walter and Ilya Dragunov physically and vocally. That was a beautiful, just beautiful match. By the way, like I said, top 3. Edge, Randy Orton, greatest wrestling match ever. And yes, number 2 was Sasha and Bayley from Hell in a Cell. Number 4 was Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns.
All these deserve to be very highly ranked. I'm not gonna say that. As far as where specifically, I don't really know. I'd have to take a while to really judge that for myself.
I just look at Noah G frozen.
He is frozen, Jesus.
That is a brilliant.
I didn't notice that until just now until you reminded me.
Pete, screen cap that. Turn that to a meme for something. Oh my God, that's so
I would have to
fake.
take a picture of it. I don't know how to do it on this computer because I'm Chrome illiterate.
Oh God, you do your photos of it, man. That's.
Hold on. Watch me.
Sorry, folks. Technical difficulties. Oh God. Oh, he disconnected.
No, I don't want that responsibility. No. That.
Oh God.
I don't like having the power.
Oh my God, that was too damn funny. I'm sorry. Oh my
I will
God.
say this. I will say this. As far as him getting called up, Keith Lee getting called up too early, you can make that argument. But at the same time, it's too early
Okay,
to tell. Thank God.
Continue.
Simply because he, like I said earlier, he has not taken a decisive loss yet. So
That's
it's
true.
very too early to tell.
I mean, he literally pinned Randy Orton as soon as he came up to the roster, and then, yes, Randy Orton, he beat him in quick fashion, too, but I don't think it necessarily deflates him. And this idea of Sheamus and Keith Lee butting heads, getting maybe to Drew McIntyre, who's friends with both, a longer-term friend with Sheamus, it sounds like they're building a short-term program, maybe with Keith Lee and Sheamus. Maybe that could become a number 1 contendership match for Drew McIntyre's WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble.
The only reason I'm reluctant to look at that victory over Randy Orton as more than what it is, because as excited as I was when it happened,
Trying to fix this
is
stuff.
because I remember when
Oh, he's gone again.
we
Continue your thought. Folks,
I remember a similar situation happening years ago. Shelton Benjamin beat Triple H. I think a lot of people probably thought that he was going to be a world champion when that happened. And don't get me wrong, he had some success, but he never was a world champion. At least not in WWE.
Shelton Benjamin had the potential. Meanwhile, Noah G's back. You can
But
start.
at the same time,
just happened?
no, all I thought was it skipped you out and said, it said, "You are the host now." I'm like, I don't want that responsibility.
My internet just fucked it.
Oh, that was so damn funny. Oh, and the freeze frame. You're going to look at that freeze frame, and literally, you're going to be cussing your internet provider out. Oh, my God, that was funny.
Well, no, but my internet didn't cut out. I didn't disconnect from the internet. My Zoom call just shut off.
Jeez.
Oh, we know.
We know. You were like this.
Don't know what happened.
Your screen wasn't there.
But he was frozen, so he was there, and then he disconnected. Anyway, Noah G, you heard the conversation, so damn, I forgot where we're going. Keith Lee, your thoughts on Keith Lee's push so far on the main roster?
Personally, I think with Keith Lee on the main roster, I mean, he had the one victory over Randy Orton, which was good for him. But personally, I think he's starting to get lost in the shuffle, which is a discredit to him. Because that's what happens. That's what tends to happen with NXT talent being caught up to the main roster. I mean, look at Matt Riddle. He's already lost his first name and no championships for him, and he's being teamed up with Jeff Hardy, which can be good for him. For Matt Riddle being teamed up,
it can be great for that.
It could be. I mean, that could be a very interesting tag team. And again, you want more tag teams. The only thing they can do at this point is try mix combinations. And that seems to be their only saving grace. They don't have like a foundation of a tag team division like AEW does. And I'm not saying that in bad taste. It's just WWE has not put in the work, it seems. You look at AEW, every tag team has their own identity, is a legitimate force. And the point now, most of them have a trios. We're getting trios titles in AEW, folks. They're coming.
So here's the thing with Keith Lee.
Yeah, back to Keith Lee. Sorry.
Obviously,
off the rails.
He hasn't taken a decisive loss since coming to Raw, which is good. But one comparison that's obviously been made, at least for me, I don't know who else has made this, and we were talking about this when you were disconnected, was when Shelton Benjamin beat Triple H. Yep. A lot of people thought big things were coming for him when that happened.
Nothing.
But they didn't. And obviously, like, he won the Intercontinental Championship, he won the U.S. title, he won multiple tag team titles, and he's finally getting back to that, getting back to like championship
that
status.
Echelon, but that top tier echelon.
I feel like people felt like they were going to see bigger things from him after that, but they didn't. Is it possible that like maybe, they're like worried about possibly seeing, that same fate from Keith Lee because of that?
It's a curious thought. I mean, and again, I don't know, but with the way that Raw is, let's be honest here. Raw right now is a fickle, miscombobulated mess. The only thing they have defined at this point is maybe Drew McIntyre's next opponent. Everything else is up in the air.
And which brings us back to what
Randy Orton and The Fiend.
That too.
Which brings us back to what I was saying earlier. If I had the pen and I needed a Royal Rumble winner for this men's Royal Rumble, personally, I would give it to Keith Lee. The man has shown great potential. I think we've seen what, if I'm not mistaken, we had a little taste of these two going one-on-one in a ring. We have not seen them for the WWE Championship yet.
You are correct.
For Drew, and Drew has been carrying the WWE to this point. If you want to have him retain at WrestleMania, as long as these two can put out a good match, I would say WrestleMania, Keith Lee versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. The fans are here to see it, and I think Keith Lee deserves it, especially if they use the Royal Rumble, because from that point going forward, you will have the 2020, 2021, whatever, Royal Rumble match winner being Keith Lee. He can add it onto this resume, and the commentators will mention it from that point going forward. Keith Lee's a big man. He's an athletic dude, and I think he deserves a Royal Rumble victory.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, personally, like, I feel like if they're going to the trouble to protect him like this, what else would be the point?
Yeah, I mean,
actually
you gotta
agree with you on
imagine
that.
big things. Like, again, slow burns, like the money match we won at SmackDown with the women. Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair. Will they press Bianca Belair to maybe win the Royal Rumble? Also, because you also gotta consider the women's Royal Rumble match is up in the air, too. Current champs are Asuka and Sasha Banks. And honestly, you look at these divisions, the only legitimate competitor, at least to one of them, is literally Bianca Belair. If she doesn't get to Sasha Banks for the Royal Rumble, and they just thrust this, it's a wasted opportunity in my opinion, because I honestly don't see anybody else that could win the Women's Royal Rumble unless they do what you say and call up Rhea Ripley, who, again, Triple H has
Here's
literally
the thing,
called the future.
Here's the thought that I have with that. I think the final combatants of this women's Royal Rumble match could be Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. And Bianca wins. I would say that, and then she goes on to face Sasha for the SmackDown. Rhea could either do one of two things. She could or many things. She could eliminate the most people. She could go the longest time. She could really be established to win. If she were to win and beat Bianca, the fans might turn on her for this, for that, because of them wanting Bianca to challenge to win the Royal Rumble and face a champion.
Right.
But if Rhea is impressive and still loses, this still shoots her into a stratosphere to leave NXT and challenge a Asuka or a Charlotte Flair again. Or, wild card here, we no longer have the tag team champions of Nia Jackson and Shayna Baszler. For all we know, Shayna could become Raw Women's Champion between now and WrestleMania.
I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Rhea and Shayna again. That would be awesome.
People have been wondering why Shayna was not the Raw Women's Champion already. Do you actually remediate that 1 year and have her finally win the title? But if so, against who? Do you have it finally be Asuka, or do you finally have her beat Charlotte? Because again, Shayna was eliminated by Charlotte in order to win the Women's Royal Rumble this year.
Yeah, we've seen being the runner-up from the Royal Rumble match go on to mean something. We have.
Yeah, Shayna Baszler elimination chamber, but the booking just sucked.
If I remember correctly, Roman Reigns against Batista, he was the runner-up from the Royal Rumble when Batista won that year.
Yep.
And the next year, he actually ended up going on to challenge Brock Lesnar. And actually, Cena, the year that Batista won that first Royal Rumble, Cena was actually the one that ended up challenging for the WWE title when Batista was challenging for the World
Heavyweight titles. You are correct.
So it's not always a bad thing to be the runner-up for the Royal Rumble. So that's one good thing to come out of the brand split is having just numbers.
I think it'll be interesting
Simple math.
to see. I definitely Rhea Ripley involved in this match for sure. One particular return that I want to see at this year's Royal Rumble, and this is another female talent that I've put over and I want to see be successful and have a singles championship run. Being Sonya Deville.
Mm-hmm.
I want her to make a return 110%. The woman deserves a push. She has a legion of fans behind her. She has shown without a doubt that she is capable of telling a legitimate story and cutting one hell of a fucking promo. I definitely am expecting to see, hopefully seeing a return for her because she's going through the fucking ringer in her personal life and she deserves to be successful in regards to the WWE and in this particular Royal Rumble match. So hopefully we see her back at this year's Royal Rumble match. But yeah, I personally, when it comes to the winners, Bianca Belair and Keith Lee, for sure.
Yeah, I think those are definitely top two candidates. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the voices of wrestling. When it comes to 2020, there have been a lot of criticism when it comes to commentary, more so from other individuals than others. Yes, I know Michael Cole is always going to be robotic, always going to be insulted, but there's always that guy that gives you the purpose behind the story and invests you in the match. So I just want to ask you all, who, in your personal fan opinion, has been the best commentator to guide you for your 2020 in wrestling? And Pete, I will start with you.
I don't know if he's been the best, but I feel like he's broken out more simply because he's been given a position sort of abruptly. And I feel like he gets slept on simply because people just don't like him and they prefer someone else. And his name is Vic Joseph.
Oh, okay.
I feel like Michael Cole got the similar treatment when JR left because they wanted JR so badly and they were so unwilling to accept Michael Cole. And I feel like Vic Joseph is getting that treatment now because they want Mauro Ranallo so badly. But people sleep on Vic Joseph. And I feel like because of the fact that they want Mauro Ranallo, they're just unwilling to accept the fact that Vic Joseph is actually very good at his job. I actually am very high on Vic Joseph as a commentator. Also, fun fact, and I'm not even a Browns fan, but he's from Cleveland.
Not that you're being biased at all. I respect that. I mean, Vic Joseph has definitely come a long way. He and, of course, Millie McKenzie, who are a thing, I believe, they both are doing great things in NXT. But I kind of got to go with Big G on this when I think about who really helped when it came to commentary to the point I actually want to listen to the wrestling, because that was lost for me on the longest time. I gotta give it to Samoa Joe on Monday Night Raw. He literally keeps you into the match, tells the story, and really does put over the talent. At one point, literally defending his cohorts in Tom Phillips and Byron Saxton, while they've been trying to define the Raw team, because you've seen in and out exchanges with Michael Cole and so many others. Samoa Joe has been that one foundation part of Monday Night Raw this entire year. I feel like he personally carries the table more than Tom Phillips. So for me, mad respect, especially because Mauro Ranallo, he had a short-term run, of course, and is doing his own thing. Again, I wish him the best. Him and his family. Mental health, always number one. For me, though, I feel like Samoa Joe definitely gave me the best 2020 on commentary. If nothing else, the most memorable and connected. When I already connect with so many other voices that always deliver for me regardless. So, mad respect to Samoa Joe. Noah G, what about you?
In regards to Noah G's 2020 Commentator of the Year, we're going with WWE and in NXT on this one. With Mauro Ranallo no longer on NXT. I always fuck up his name. Did I get it right this time?
Yeah, Mauro Ranallo.
You actually did this time. You actually did this time.
Good on you.
We gotta give you.
I gotta get props on that.
But with the commentating of the year, I gotta give it to somebody who is establishing themselves as the foundation of NXT commentating and the essential to NXT commentary, and that being none other than Beth Phoenix. We have a woman commentator commentating on WWE matches, putting the female talent over, but also being able to do it with the strict restrictions of COVID.
Right.
And I think she's been doing one hell of a job as a female commentator, and is also redefining in regards to breaking gender barriers and hopefully opening this up to more female commentators in the future, not just for NXT but for Raw and SmackDown. But yeah, I gotta give credit where credit is due. I gotta give it to Beth Phoenix. She's a living legend, not only in the wrestling ring, but also she's doing a hell of a job at commentating the NXT matches and on a weekly basis.
All right, I have respect there. Well, unless you have one last free-form question or a category, I say we move to our conclusion. That is a discussion on the year-end NXT awards. Unless you all have something else.
Let's go to the year-end NXT awards.
Yeah, because let's face it, no matter what, black and gold, it's always going to be my go-to in WWE. It's been my go-to for years. It's been under weird circumstances. Yes, there's been that USA Network presence and maybe some Vince dipping in the brand. But you can't argue that NXT, even during this pandemic, has still left us with some incredible matches, have grown some incredible talent, had some awesome shows both here and across the pond. And as always, NXT, it leaves you always wanting more. Heck, we came together at NXT Live. NXT brought this group together, okay? So with that being said, it's that time again. Let's go ahead and go through the NXT year-end awards. with that being said, there is a bunch of awards here, so we'll just go ahead and start off with Breakout Star of the Year, because I feel like that's definitely one of the key highlights to figure about. When you figure about Breakout Star, you figure about who really impressed you. Who can you see lead this brand in some capacity, or even be a greater W superstar on the other rosters. So here are the nominees, and Pete, I will open the floor to you to give your thoughts and pick first. Your Breakout Stars of the Year choices are Pat McAfee, Damian Priest, Shotzi Blackheart, Aaron Grimes, Dexter Lumis, Timothy Thatcher, Raquel Gonzalez, Santos Escobar, or Ilya Dragunov. What's your pick?
When I think of stars, I think of star power. I think of somebody that has every single tool. That doesn't just translate to in the ring. That also translates to out of the ring. That translates to interviews. That translates to promos. That translates to swagger. That translates to how they carry themselves. And when I think of those things, one name comes to mind right now, and that name is Damian Priest. He is swagalicious, and I know that word sounds weird, but he's got something, man. He's got a lot. He's got charisma. He's got enough charisma to give out as like tiers and subscriptions on Twitch.
That was a Booker T run from
that. Literally was like a Booker T rub. Okay, he literally put him in like his top 5. It sounded
That's
like
his shucky ducky quack quack moment of the week.
All right,
but, yeah, that's my pick, man, for the Breakout Star. I think he'll be the NXT champion. I think he could go on to do anything he wanted if given the right environment.
Well, considering he's facing Karrion Kross literally at New Year's Eve, I feel like you definitely are onto something there, and the sky's the limit. Again, thinking about the entire year, who really has carried themselves to a whole nother level, really redefined themselves and connected with the audience, and who could I see being an incredible star? I'm giving it to Shotzi Blackheart. Shotzi Blackheart took it to the champ, Io Shirai. She was the host of Halloween Havoc. She hosted her own team at War Games, and while this wild, weird renegade that Wade Barrett didn't even know, she has thoroughly impressed everybody that has watched her wrestle in the ring, and people appreciate and connect with her character. She defines what NXT is about. Wild, different, but somebody that you take seriously. I love her style, and I hope for bigger things now that this whole Lorraine thing, I feel like, is over. And I honestly can see her being a future NXT Women's Champion. For me, Breakout Star of the Year, I'm going with Shotzi Blackheart. Noah G, your pick.
While I agree with Hossman over here in regards to Damian Priest, and I will put him over forever because Damian Priest is a motherfucking pimp. I mean, he won the North American Championship, and then he jumped into a hot tub with a bunch of with his trunks on with a couple of girls. Hey, atta boy! I will give him the classic football slap on the ass for that one. Now,
wow.
That being said, though, here's the thing. That being said, I will agree with Simple Man. Shotzi Blackheart has stepped her fucking game up in the year of 2020. Whether it be, and I can see amazing things for her, including, and get this, she's grown up with a motorcycle riding father. I could see her main roster trading her tank in for a motorcycle.
Oh, wow.
Don't quote me on that, but it could happen. And it would be crazy, and she could win a championship with a female American badass.
I was about to say, she may have to ask Undertaker first, but I think Undertaker would go for it.
I feel like Undertaker supports Shotzi Blackheart. I can definitely see that happening.
That being
said,
I agree with everything Simple Man just said. I love how she has stepped up. That segment that she did when she teamed up with Io Shirai, and then after the match, she's holding the belt, about to hand it to Io. She's like, no, I'm going to hold this for a second. I want her to be NXT champion, NXT Women's Champion in 2021. I want her to get her revenge on Candice LeRae. If that means Candice LeRae wins it from Io, then that is a sacrifice that I'm willing to take. If the payoff is that Shotzi Blackheart becomes NXT Women's Champion, then so be it. If and only if Rhea Ripley has been called up to the main roster and is having that WrestleMania match with either Charlotte, Asuka, or Shayna, whatever, for the Raw Women's Championship. But I am hoping that we get Shotzi Blackheart in 2021 as the NXT Women's Champion because she has done phenomenal. She has captained her team. Those segments for War Games where she's in the shop building shit. I loved it. Just her in general for 2020, I feel like it's been phenomenal, and I would say that she's been the breakout star, with the exception of a name that you did not mention on that list. I will say as a runner-up, we got to give credit where credit is due. Toni Storm showing up from NXT UK onto main at flagship NXT, and not only that, but redefining her character in the process. But I got to give it to Shotzi's the breakout star for me.
All right, fair enough. So we got everyone's thoughts on that. Let's go ahead and move on to the next category. When it comes to storytelling, don't you just love it when two people can't stand each other and you feel the hate and it brings out magic and incredible matches? Well, let's go ahead and talk about the rivalry of the year, because there definitely have been a number of standout rivalries that have given us incredible moments, promos, matches to remember, and very surprising outcomes. Here are the nominees. The nominees are Adam Cole versus Pat McAfee, Candice LeRae versus Io Shirai, Damian Priest versus Johnny Gargano. On a side note, I'm surprised you never mentioned anything about the Johnny Gargano's Christmas with Indy Hartwell becoming indie wrestling and freaking Austin Theory getting protein powder. That was ridiculously funny. Anyway, going back to this. The way. Follow the way. Anyway, had to bring it up. Anyway, continue after that. What to say? Damian Priest, Johnny Gargano. Dexter Loomis versus Kevin Grimes. Shotzi Blackheart versus Robert Stone. Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Gonzalez. Walter versus Ilya Dragunov. And Kelly Ray versus Piper Niven. Noah G, what has been your rivalry of the year for NXT 2020?
For NXT, I got to give it to Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez. These two have kept me interested, and it's been ongoing. And not only that, but Rhea and I'm kind of pulling back the curtain and kayfabing it, guys. Back before Raquel was, being the 6 foot tall gopher for Dakota Kai, they were doing indie match, like independent, like smaller venue matches where Rhea was teaming up with Raquel before Raquel was who she is today. And so the two are, well acquainted and friends behind the scenes. And it seems like Rhea is doing a hell of a job of building Raquel Gonzalez up as this badass, tough as nails, presence on the female roster. That being said, Rhea ain't no pushover either. That woman's going to be a force to be reckoned with for years to come. And like I've said, Triple H has deemed her the future of the business. What this means for her on the main roster, who knows? But I feel like this is Rhea grooming Raquel up to be a legitimate force to be reckoned with on NXT, so that when the time comes, Rhea can go to the main roster and be a success there, hopefully, because we all know how Vince has his way of doing things, and as a disservice to us fans, puts does not ruins talent that we want to see pushed. So hopefully, when Rhea gets to the main roster, Vince doesn't ruin her. Because then I will be pissed beyond fucking belief, because I love Rhea Ripley to death. That being said, I give it to Raquel and Rhea as the NXT rivalry of the year. They faced each other at War Games. They faced each other in a one-on-one match. Then the War Games, faced each other again in the War Games match. These guys have come face-to-face, the backstage vignettes, and then we have this last woman standing match at New Year's Evil. It is an ongoing story, and I love that, and I cannot wait to see the match itself and who wins. So I got it again. Rhea and Raquel, that's the rivalry of the year.
All right. Well, Pete, your thoughts on that? Do you agree or do you have a different pick?
Well, one thing I will say is that today in 2020, there is something truly magical and something to be said about watching something in the world of pro wrestling that truly makes you believe that it is real. And for that reason, I have to go with Adam Cole versus Pat McAfee. Because outside of what actually happened on NXT and all that other stuff, when I first saw what went down on the show, when I saw Adam Cole's tirade against Pat McAfee, I genuinely thought what was going down there was not scripted. I thought I actually thought that was some legit stuff. Yeah. Maybe I'm just a dumbass and didn't see what was going on right in front of me, but they had me hooked. They had me convinced. And, that says a lot about, how hard they were trying. Yeah. So for that reason, I got to say, hey, they were putting in the work.
Okay, I respect that.
It really gave, and to credit that, it really gave this old school vibe. I've told this, I've recanted, and I will tell this story from until my dying day, the story of back in the late 70s, early 80s between Ric Flair and Ricky
Steamboat.
Ricky Dragon Steamboat.
Of them going face to face each other in a fucking gas station with fans at the window. It had a real old school vibe. And Pat is a die-hard wrestling fan. Which again goes back to why the hell they are writing him off of TV.
It's just the kind of thing that doesn't really go out of style. I don't think.
I agree.
I don't think it ever will.
It's just always going to be redefined, but always questioned too. But as fans,
I won't change my vote, but I definitely see what Pete's going for there.
Well, first off,
Adam Cole and Pat McAfee. That's my vote there.
All right, you both made incredible picks. So first off, I'll tell you what I'm not picking, because Shotzi Blackheart versus Robert Stone is not Shotzi Blackheart versus Robert Stone. It's Robert Stone versus the Tank, okay? And that was only 3 times. Now, as far as looking at these rivalries, you look at where tension is built, how far a rivalry can go, to the point that these two, they want to decimate each other, to the other one is non-existent. I got to keep it simple and go along with my fellow Noah here. I love this battle of the Giants and the Juggernaut to see who could lead this women's division as the ultimate badass. This is go way beyond the fact that Mercedes Martinez and Rhea Ripley faced each other in a steel cage, and that was called the Battle of the Badass. This is 2 legitimate juggernauts of women's pro wrestling right now, duking it out to see who's the best. And now we're finally going to see Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez maybe finish this off in a last man standing match at New Year's Evil. Well, I have absolutely loved everything about this rivalry. When I see these two face off, and I'm just waiting for them to clash, fight, break each other in half, I cannot wait to see it go down. And the subtle teasing after her match with Kai this week on NXT, it just further hyped me. And then those two just kept fighting and fighting, where the rest couldn't take them apart. But you had to literally bring out other talent. I love when a rivalry reaches that boiling point, to the point you can't stop these two from fighting, it seems. And I love this personification of women's wrestling, and I literally could take either of these two leading WWE as future superstars. Rhea Ripley already is a made woman. She's done for NXT, so putting Raquel over in her place, if that is the plan here, I absolutely agree with. For me, I gotta give respect to the women. Honorable mention to Walter and the Dragon up with the years of history, but that only took place literally over a battle royale, a tag team match, and then the most brutal UK championship match in the brand's history. But I gotta give it to Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez. Bar none. All right. Well, I don't know about you all, whether it's trios or tag teams, but I sense camaraderie, I sense chemistry, I sense we all get along pretty well, we respect each other's thoughts, and we probably would work together pretty well too as a commentary team. But who overall could get it done in the ring together? So, who was NXT's Tag Team of the Year? And I'll start this one off, because the nominees are the Undisputed Era, Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch, Breezango, Imperium, Gallus, and Legado del Fantasma. So all these teams have made tremendous strides and have really shown tag team chemistry What do you think of the? That's an interesting comment. A little off the topic there. Not sure about what that's supposed to mean.
Someone commented on our stream.
Yeah, Jacob Card. That's
Hold on.
That was
Let me
weird.
look.
Yeah.
What did I
I am not
What did they
going
say?
Are you
to.
getting spammed again?
I think we're getting spammed. Go ahead. Do what you do with that. Everyone is a person. People are people. Let's treat one another equally and fairly. Let's bring up the world. I have no idea why that came into play.
Hold on a second.
Oh my god!
Besides Paul Heyman, does this apply to anybody else in wrestling? Well, I guess
Okay,
not in
I'm
wrestling.
MJF.
I'm
Wait,
I
not
mean,
MJF
Kyle from South Park, but I mean, other than that, I don't
I
think
think
I know any
MJF
other
is Jewish.
Jews.
Is he? Is MJF Jewish? I don't know. I'm getting into a.
Pete,
I don't know.
Pete, screenshot the comment and send it to me.
Oh
And-
god!
Right. Well, it's
Do I
in
need
the
to
chat.
do I need to bury someone?
I hate the way my face looks in this picture, but I'm gonna send it to you anyway.
Yeah,
Do I
because you
need to
broke.
bury someone right now?
Yeah, you might. So I'm just gonna subtly
You
say,
don't need to, but we can't stop you from doing it, so we're just gonna come to peace with it.
just
All right.
in a sensitive world, be professional. That's all I gotta say. That gum, you
I'll
freaking-
try.
that
telling
gum, freaking
Noah G to be
idiots.
professional?
Anyway, Tag Team of the Year.
Hey.
Getting back on topic after that, dickhead. Getting back on topic. Undisputed Era is my pick solely because those guys, they have stood the testament of time as NXT's leading faction. They stand as brothers. I thought they were going to break up. They have done absolutely everything. And even right now, you can believe these guys as faces. Keeping it simple, despite Breezango finally getting their moments as tag team champions, Imperium with a mat is sacred. I love the Worlds Collide match, but Alistair and Wolf got knocked the heck out. And right now, Imperium's not even together
He
as a
did.
force. Gallus, they finally got the tag titles. I appreciate them as a force, but Joe Coffey, he still leads the team in my opinion. But Undisputed Era, whether they're tag team, trios, or singles, I believe in all four of these men. And finally, they're letting Kyle O'Reilly break out. So with that being said, it is undisputed for me, Undisputed Era. Now, before Noah G goes off the script, yes, I said it. Pete, who was your tag team of the year? Fucking idiots.
I am going to agree with you and go with the Undisputed Era because it feels like there's just been a constant. Like there's been a lot of teams that have come through and just have had like a pretty decent amount of success, like have come through. But this seems like they've like it's come and gone. But you know, when they have come and gone, one team that has still been there has been the Undisputed Era. Like they were here at the beginning of 2020 and they're still here now. And I could still, I wouldn't surprise me if they were to get one more tag team title reign, you know, within the new year, if not other ones. Like that's, and because that's the thing with, when it comes to the Undisputed Era, they've had so much success, not just in 2020, but for the past 3 years. And the other teams that have come through in as far out of these nominees, while they have, you know, been successful, it's been, you know, a few short reigns within, you know. So it's I got to give it to the Undisputed Era because they've just been a constant. It's just that word. It's a constant.
Simple as that.
Mm.
All
Yeah.
right, Noah G, your tag team of the year.
My tag team of the year. It's interesting. So the tag team that has been recently catching the attention of NXT fans as of recently has been Lorcan and Birch being tag team champions, all because of Breezango pulling up short.
With Pat McAfee
However-
assistance.
Right, exactly. However, we got to give credit where credit is due because Kyle O'Reilly being now focused more towards the singles competition, gunning for the NXT championship. What this means for the future of Undisputed Era is to be determined. However, when it comes to the tag team of the year, I got to agree with what's been said thus far. I mean, the Undisputed Era, not only have they been the tag team of this year, but they've also been the faction of the past several years on NXT, whether they be babyface or heel. Recently, they're showing more of the babyface side of things because of Pat McAfee and company.
Yep.
You know, and then on top of that, we have possible tag team champions, a tag team championship match with what they're doing with Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory. I mean, if they're going to put 2 belts on Johnny Gargano, God help us. Johnny Gargano with his bedhead, not denying his talent. I just love to hate if you're a good heel, I hate on you. If you're depending on it's flavors, gentlemen. If you taste good and you're a heel, I'll put you over. Roman Reigns is a wait. Put that back up to the camera again, Pete. I didn't.
He's going to the restroom. He's going go take care of yourself. Get to the restroom.
Okay, but I gotta put Undisputed Era over on this one because they're not only they're each two. Blah
blah blah.
They are a faction that are able to come together, and any 2 of them are able to win the tag titles, and individually are able to win the singles championships. Whether you be a Roderick Strong or an Adam Cole, there is no leader. They are one cohesive unit thus far, and what this means going forward in 2021. One of the questions that we continue to ask ourselves is how long will Undisputed Era continue to run as a cohesive unit with this difference, whether it be Adam Cole no longer gunning for the singles championship? What if Kyle O'Reilly happens to beat Finn Balor and win the championship? Will this cause jealousy amongst the other members? We don't know. But that's neither here nor there. This is future booking, future storytelling, and we all know that they've all had individual matches with each other in the past in other promotions. That being said, I think we should acknowledge the truth that Undisputed Era is one of the greatest factions in WWE history, up there with the Shield and the Four Horsemen.
That's saying something.
Sorry, that's going on another tangent. I would say the tag team of the year goes to the Undisputed Era. Behind them, and right behind them, I would say it would be Lorcan and Burch.
I would actually give it to Imperium personally because they took over NXT UK, and we saw these 2 factions battle out at Worlds Collide, and that was an awesome match, except for the wolf spot. Yeesh. So honestly, my runner-up would have been Imperium because I'll always believe the Mott is sacred. As the Horvath's New World Symphony plays for Walter. I like the fact that Walter has the original version of that, but the rest of Imperium have like a slightly altered version of it. It's kind of interesting. It's like, the new school being led by the throwback, because Walter is a throwback. Period. Alright. Well, I don't know about you all, but there have definitely been some standouts this year in NXT. But who truly has led the brand as leader? As we now look at the male competitor of the year. Here we go. You have the following. This was going to be tough to pick. Finn Balor, Adam Cole, baby, Johnny Gargano, Keith Lee, Walter, or Tommaso Ciampa. Pete, you're going last. Noah, I'm starting with you.
I would say because in 2020, in the year 2020, because Finn Balor, correct me if I'm wrong, we saw Finn Balor come back towards the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're right, because again, he came back and he attacked Johnny Gargano because he was attacking the current face of NXT.
Exactly. I have to give it to Finn Balor because not only has he made a return to NXT, but he's no longer the all smiles Finn Balor that we saw on the main roster. We saw this new side, this aggressive side of Finn Balor, and this Take No Prisoner, cutting hell of promos recently. Those segments that he's on are incredible, where it's just him zoomed up on his face, different camera angles, and he's commanding your attention. I got to give it to Finn Balor on this one, because he's not only come back to NXT, gotten your attention, defined him, established himself as the Prince, but he's come back and reclaimed the NXT Championship and had a hell of a run as NXT Champion and defended it successfully. So I would say I would give it all to Finn Balor.
All right then. Oh man, this is so tough. Okay, I want to pick Walter, but I can't ignore the fact he has been out of competition for several months. While he given me probably one of my key match of the year candidates for NXT Match of the Year, we'll talk about later. I gotta look at the entire year in full, and NXT ran the gauntlet. They ran the whole thing. I figure about Keith Lee, who no longer is in NXT, but I figure about NXT TakeOver Portland. Keith Lee, Jack Kodak was the only match that truly mattered to me. That was my match of the night. That was incredible. The man, he is charismatic beyond belief. He made history owning the NXT and North American Championship at the same time. And he left on a high note, despite the fact he did lose the NXT Championship to Karrion Kross. Johnny Gargano, he is NXT. I feel like then, now, and forever, he is still Mr. Takeover. He's the first man now to hold the NXT North American Championship now 3 times. Now, whether or not that means he's going to lose it quickly and go 4 or 5, blah, 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 your guess is as good as mine. Now he's forming his own faction, and honestly, he's pushing what he thinks is the future of NXT through Austin Theory. Not a bad pick if you ask me. I look at Tommaso Ciampa, who's the black card, who came back with his whole new identity. He got a fallout from Johnny Gargano, which led to the only NXT cinematic match that existed, if you could call it that, before we had cinematic matches in this brand's history. And that was the final beat, where both the Garganos, they basically turned heel. But he's also redefined himself now, where he's not so much focused on getting Goldie, but he's trying to teach this roster some humility, that nothing was given. Everything was earned and taken, and now he's going after Tommaso Ciampa and enforcing that lesson. But I have to agree with you when it comes to reinvention, when it comes to leading this brand, when it comes to being a real, defining, definitive champion. I've got to give it to the Prince, Finn Balor. And I'm very curious as to how long this is going to go. And is this, like he says, between him and O'Reilly, the end? Or is it a new beginning? I'm really looking forward to this match on New Year's Eve, but Finn Balor is NXT champion as NXT reinvented himself, starting off against Johnny Gargano at TakeOver, I might add, beating the guy. I gotta go with you. I gotta agree. It's Finn Balor all the way. No disrespect to Adam Cole, but Adam Cole, it's been more the factions year, not Adam Cole's year this year. I mean, think about it. Adam Cole, he did beat Pat McAfee, but he hasn't been NXT champion since losing to Keith Lee on that, losing out on the double history. But then he lost the NXT championship in an opener to Finn Balor, which again was a great match. But in my opinion, if the NXT title really mattered that much, that should have closed the show. Adam Cole, he's already had definitive years beyond his years in NXT. This faction owned the year, but solo-wise, I gotta give it to the Prince. Finn Balor is also my pick. Pete, take it away. Your summary of NXT, male competitor of the year.
For the most part, overall, I gotta say Keith Lee.
Oh.
Wow. I look at what he's done for a majority of the year, and I think, and I believe it encompasses NXT. He started the year winning the North American Championship from Roderick Strong in a very hellacious matchup, and then he represented NXT in the Royal Rumble match against Brock Lesnar.
Oh, that's right.
And then he defended the North American Championship multiple times over a span of months, and then he carried the North American Championship into that title for title match at the Great American Bash, where he won the NXT Championship against Adam Cole. So honestly, just all of that alone, I believe. And then I didn't even mention this, pretty much that on top of pretty much the plethora of matches that he's had over 2020 against Dominic Dijakovic.
Oh my gosh, that was such great stuff.
I mean, I got to give it to Keith Lee. Like, he's been, doing everything in his power to carry NXT, and unfortunately, like, he was just another victim of circumstance when it comes to early call-ups.
Yeah.
He's been doing everything he can to, work with it, because at the same time, they've been doing everything in their power to try to protect them, even though they haven't done the best job of doing so.
Right.
But he, I think when it comes to who's been, the male competitor of NXT in 2020, it's gotta be Keith Lee. He was the first dual champion in NXT history as far as 2 singles titles go.
Right.
Because when it comes to Adam Cole, that was technically a technicality. That was kind of, it was kind of a it was kind of a technicality because he kind of had the tag titles, because Bobby Fish got injured.
Correct.
But yeah, he was the first one to hold 2 singles titles in NXT history.
Oh, in NXT, okay.
Yeah,
I mean, not the first double champ to have an NXT championship. I mean,
yeah. As controversial as it might sound, I got to give it to Keith Lee. It just, even when I try to rethink it, it always reverts back to him.
Respect, absolute respect. Bask in his glory. He definitely left a legacy in NXT this year, that's for sure, before he got called up. All right. Well, the men impressed, but again, when it comes to NXT's greatest strength, it's the women. Simple as that. And literally, they sometimes give them 2 or 3 segments, including like 2 matches. And this by far has to be the strongest year in women's wrestling in NXT history. So let's go ahead and figure out who was the female competitor of the year. And the nominees are The Nightmare, Rhea Ripley, Genius of the Sky, Io Shirai, Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, who might I add was breakout star last year for NXT. How ironic. Kaylee Ray, or Tegan Nox. I don't know about you all, but Tegan Nox has just been a victim of misfortune. I mean, literally. She had the opportunity of a lifetime of the Women's War Games last year. She got destroyed by her so-called friend. Then her and Kai, they had a great street fight, and then she had a fallout with Candice LeRae, and then she got injured again, ran off TV. Honestly, I don't know what her future is when it comes to wrestling. She might just want to become a coach or something. And I know that's a harder pill to swallow, but again, you got to look at your health at the end of the day. It's just been a bad misfortune for Tegan Nox ever since being part of WWE. Ever since you figure about the friggin' Mae Young Classic, where literally it was a heartbreaking moment and they had to like halt the match. But in the end, kudos to her. I mean, she still went through with it. But Tegan Nox has just had, I'm just going to say it right now, she's had worse misfortunes than Kenta Hideo Itami. Just saying. I look at Kaylee Ray, and she has dominated the NXT UK's women's division. But again, I have to be fair and unbiased, despite the fact like NXT UK sometimes more than NXT in certain aspects. Just saying. They have not competed for a good portion of this year, so I can't count that. It's like empty days. It's like holding a belt just cause. And again, it's out of your hands, but still, I have to see the work ethic. And again, it's a victim of circumstance. That's my personal opinion on that. Dakota Kai, she's been one of those breakout stars for sure this year. She's challenged for the NXT Women's Championship, fallen short. She has raised this identity of Raquel Gonzalez ever since Raquel came in as her bodyguard, partner, only friend, etc. Her and Never Moon renewed hostilities, and these are 2 of the earliest, I might add, installments of NXT's Women's Division that both have redefined their identity. And then you have Candice LeRae, Candice Hardcore. She proved why she's that this year, but she has had multiple opportunities for the NXT Women's Championship and lost. I can't deny that. Though she has won War Games again for the 2nd year, literally sacrificing her arm. Mad respect. Io Shirai had finally ascended to the top, becoming an NXT Women's Championship, and she has had a hell of a run with it. Ever since becoming this ridiculously, I would say, self-tortured persona, she has owned herself and her character in NXT, where at one point we thought she was going to go home to her fiancé, Evil, in New Japan Pro Wrestling and head back to Stardom. But for me, when it comes to defining women's wrestling, elevating the game and identity of NXT, and literally you can be anything in this company, you know damn well I'm picking freaking Rhea Ripley.
Goddamn right.
Pete, your thoughts on that?
I can't disagree with it. Simply for one reason alone. She's was in 2020. She was the first woman to. She was the first person to defend an NXT branded championship at WrestleMania. That
Yes.
You're damn
that
right.
that means something.
Yeah.
And as much as I want to, I gotta give all the credit in the world to Io Shirai. She has had an amazing championship reign as the NXT Women's Champion. There's something to be said about what Rhea Ripley has done at WrestleMania, and since WrestleMania, she's still managed to come back and still represent the NXT brand with pride. Her rivalries with Mercedes Martinez and Raquel Gonzalez have just been absolute hard hitting, ass kicking fiestas.
Great summary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Add to it, Noah G.
I cannot disagree with you, gentlemen, any more. You guys took the words right out of my mouth. Rhea Ripley, I have put over that woman. I've put her over before, and I will do it again. She has been the face of the women's division in NXT. With the possibility of later on down the line going to the main roster, you have somebody like you have Candice LeRae, you have Io Shirai, you have Shotzi Blackheart. You have these women to, carry NXT when that becomes a possibility. But I agree. Never have we ever had the NXT Women's Championship defended at WrestleMania, and we did. Not the result that we wanted, that I personally wanted, but still. And not only that, she has built herself back up and in a one hell of a storyline with Raquel Gonzalez recently. But 2020 NXT Women's Division, you give it to Rhea Ripley. Enough said.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, this should be pretty easy, or maybe not. As wrestling fans, there's no such thing as a perfect show or a perfect event, but there are the moments and those matches that leave us going back to the event just for that. And Face the WWE Network, you can literally click to that moment. But in y'all's opinion, what was the strongest booked, personal favorite, overall great event of the year for NXT? What was your favorite special or takeover? And the nominees are NXT UK TakeOver, Blackpool 2, NXT TakeOver Portland, NXT TakeOver In Your House, because NXT TakeOver Tampa Bay was not an official takeover, that was impromptu TV matches because of the circumstances. The Great American Bash, NXT TakeOver 30, 31, Halloween Havoc, or NXT TakeOver War Games. When you think about these events, what was your favorite event of the year? Which was the one you would go back to either watch the most encore, either in its entirety, or left you with the best match, best aspect, best presentation, best feeling afterwards? Noah G, I will start with you. What was your NXT event of the year?
That is a tough one. Because we're talking about all of 2020. We've had amazing takeovers, and we had just, goodness.
Yeah.
And
a couple of these aren't even takeovers. They were special NXTs.
That's tough. Screw it. I'll give it to okay, I thought I had it, and then I'm reconsidering it. That is so hard.
You're fickle!
It's hard to what? Hold up. Calling me fickle.
Fickle!
Bruh, quick quoting Daniel Bryan in his heel phase. That was a brilliant fucking.
I miss the new Daniel Bryan. That's all I have to say about that.
I hate the Titantron with the green recycling thing, and I hate the wooden the Band-Aid championship belt. But
Band-Aid championship.
Anywho, that is a tough one because. It's hard, but the ones that really stuck out to me were obviously the recent War Games and In Your House, because we had one hell of a main event with Io Shirai, Charlotte, and Rhea. So honestly, and then also before that, we had in Your House we had a North American Championship match between Keith Lee and Johnny Gargano. So screw it, I'm gonna give it to In Your House on this one.
I mean, in your house was pretty nostalgic. I mean, heck, they brought back freaking Sean Mooney. So I mean, or excuse me, I'm botching that name. I can respect that. Pete, what about you?
I also am going to say screw it, and I'm going to go with the one takeover that we had this year that, okay, not the one takeover that we had that had fans this year. One takeover that had a full audience, and that would be NXT Takeover Portland.
Oh, okay.
I loved this show from beginning to end. Everything about it was awesome. The winners of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, the Broserweights, ended up beating the Undisputed Era for the tag team titles. I loved Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle together. Like their little vignettes of how we get into Portland, bro. So entertaining. Like them sneaking onto Triple H's jet. So awesome.
Okay, I'll admit that was funny. Keith Lee versus Dominic Dijakovic for the North American title. Amazing. Tegan Knox versus Dakota Kai in a street fight. Awesome. Like them, like they like when you like Shawn Michaels and Triple H said this themselves. When two people know each other well enough, they're just gonna have great chemistry. That's just gonna happen. Right.
And then Johnny Gargano versus Finn Balor also happened. That was just the culmination of that rivalry. And then Adam Cole versus Tommaso Ciampa for the NXT title, which led to Johnny Gargano's heel turn, aka the worst day of Noah G's life.
I can only imagine his reaction.
Hey, one more time for the sinking feeling of sadness. Say the event one more time. What happened?
NXT Takeover Portland.
And what happened? What was the status?
I said an NXT Championship match. Adam Cole versus Tommaso Ciampa, which led to the heel turn of Johnny Gargano, aka the worst day of Noah G's life.
The Johnny Gargano way.
No, yeah, what happened? Yeah, no, what happened at the takeover between Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano?
I think what happened was like
He grabbed the title and whacked him in the face while the ref was down and cost Ciampa the championship.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. And Rhea Ripley defended the NXT Women's Championship against Bianca Belair, and this is when Charlotte Flair showed up afterwards and officially attacked Rhea Ripley and declared that she was officially challenging Rhea Ripley for the NXT Women's Championship.
Yeah.
Overall, a musical performance by Poppy.
All right.
Overall, this was a fantastic takeover.
That's not bad.
Because it also had a full audience.
Yeah, I respect that. Not a bad choice at all, and you gave every match good meaning and purpose, and live performances sometimes are part of a takeover staple, it seems, and honestly, I enjoy them sometimes, and Poppy and Io Shirai, they just click like that, but, of course, Io Shirai wasn't involved here. For me, though, I look at, again, as a fan of wrestling, what show I can go back, I can watch top to bottom, enjoy, despite the circumstances with Charlotte, showing up like, oh, there it is, knew that was going to happen. But it was history making. And the street fight, yeah, it ended in a weird way with Raquel out of nowhere, costing Tiga, who was about to end Kai. But it set up this whole dynamic of Raquel and Kai. But for me, though, I figure about the classic with Tyler Bate, Jordan Devlin trying to prove why he is the best against the inaugural NXT UK's champion. I figure about that four-way ladder match when those four teams really showed everything they could, even the two teams that were against this principle, how bad they wanted the titles. At the end, Gallus standing tall. I figure out the setup to Ilya Dragunov going after Walter as the Iron King 1 year in the making after getting booted by Walter in his debut after losing to Pete Dunne the previous Blackpool. The women killed it in the triple threat opener, emotional storytelling wise, as Toni Storm and Piper Niven put their friendship on the line in the name of the NXT UK Women's Championship. And then you had this fallout with the veteran and the up-and-comer with Eddie Dennis and Tread 7 in a fun opener, and I just love that atmosphere overall. And of course, at the end of the show, it set up Worlds Collide, where we finally had the two greatest factions currently going to WWE at the time, Undisputed Era and Imperium, finally come face to face to set up that match. So for me personally, I think I'm going to go with NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool 2. I thought it was an incredible start of the year, had an audience as well, and honestly, Jordan Devlin and Tyler Bate put on one of my favorite matches in that brand's history, and neither man left anything to chance. Tyler Bate even had to go to extra lengths just to keep the Irish Ace down. So for me personally, I'm going to go with NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool 2. All right. So that was a good chat. And again, the bottom line, all these events left us with incredible matches, moments, and memories. And I honestly can't say that none of these shows I would not recommend watching in some capacity. And that's more than I could say about a WWE main roster pay-per-view, because sometimes these pay-per-views, I'm just going to be honest with you guys, I see them maybe for 1 or 2 matches, and then the other matches, I'm coasting. When it comes to TakeOver, I'm not doing that as often, if not at all. And maybe it's just the fact of the storytelling, the match quantity, and the quality both meeting my expectations. What is your thoughts regarding that?
I agree 100%. I think I'm definitely more interested in the matches at the takeovers versus the main roster pay-per-views, with the exception of a Royal Rumble or WrestleMania. I mean, there are several matches where I'm just less interested in than others, but the takeovers are definitely doing a good job at grabbing our attention by the sounds of it.
Pete, any thoughts?
Yeah, sometimes it seems like they are putting off until the Royal Rumble, because it seems like that's they're when they're trying to put effort, and then it seems like just during the pay-per-view, it's they don't really care as much. And I hate saying that. As a fan, I genuinely hate saying that.
Agree. Yeah,
I'm never gonna hate WWE.
Me neither.
It's something I grew up. Something I grew up watching on, because it's something when we give our criticisms on it, it's because we want it to get better.
Because we care.
Yes. If we really hated it that badly, if we really wanted to stop watching it, we would have by now. I feel like people should really understand that by this point.
Yeah, at this point, you got people that are literally screenshotting, unsubscribe from WWE Network. I'm like, you're taking this way out of hand, okay?
Yeah, why do you need to show us that you're doing it? Why can't you just do it and be done with it?
Some people just want to be the center of attention, I guess.
Right.
It's ridiculous, in my opinion. But, again, I don't judge. I'm just saying. All right. So, yeah, and again, what is NXT the building ground of? The future. The definition of the brand. The future is now. So, in y'all's opinion, who is the future star, in some capacity, way, or form, of NXT? They left a pretty interesting list here. They have Austin Theory, who now is with The Way. Sorry, Noah. Jake Atlas, who contended for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship and is currently in a feud with Isaiah Swerve Scott. Leon Ruff, who out of, I don't know how, became the North American Champion and has now beaten Timothy Thatcher. Casey Catanzaro, who for the longest time we wondered what the hell she was going on with her and wonder she stopped, but has just finally decided to come back and has formed this great tag team dynamic with the next one on the list, Ken and Carter. Can both of these make a future as singles or maybe tag team wrestlers in the future? Could they be potential women tag team champions? Then you have Indy Hartwell, now the other part of The Way, learning Candice LeRae's way. At one point, literally calling her Miss Decay, but now she's known as Indie Wrestling. Okay, we'll see if that sticks. Then you got Xia Li, who looks like she's going through some sort of torture, but also becoming a Shaolin monk, maybe? What the hell is going on with these vignettes? I'm surprised, Noah G, you didn't cover this at all.
I had those on the mind. I was going to bring them up, but we just kept on rolling. But no.
Fair enough.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in 2021, but continue. Let's not derail. Let's keep going.
Yeah, I know. I was just making a note, but thank you for that. A-Kid, who is the first winner of the NXT UK Heritage Cup and has now beaten his teacher, Tyler Bate, and will challenge Walter for the NXT UK Championship. Good luck, kid. Aloy Valkyrie, who I might add, still undefeated. Why is she not challenging for the NXT UK Women's Championship? And has definitely been one of my favorites across the NXT UK Women's roster, next to Isla Dawn, but I digress. Or, this is weird, Pretty Deadly, who apparently stepped up their game, tried to challenge Gales for the Tag Team Championships. Will they get the opportunity? Will they capitalize on it? I don't know. I'm just going to be straight to the point and keep it simple with you. I see her as the future NXT UK Women's Champion. It's been her inaugural year and debut, and she still has yet to be beaten. It's Aloy Valkyrie for me. She is a future star and a future champion. Period. Noah G, your thoughts?
You don't think Piper Niven could do it?
She had a chance, not once, but twice. Like Kaylee Ray said, she lacks the killer instinct, and Jinny stopped Piper Niven from getting that title again. I don't see Piper Niven right now getting the championship. She had the opportunity twice now. Piper Niven needs to redefine herself, and it starts to see if she can beat Jinny, which I'll tell you right now, I don't think she can.
Are we talking about NXT UK currently?
Basically, because this is a combination, the overall, in your expectation, who is the future star of NXT. I pick at Valkyrie because, again, she's undefeated.
Boys, I'm sorry. I am unintelligently able to. I am not intelligently able to speak on NXT UK because while they're going live on the network and streaming their matches, I'm working. So
I respect that.
It's hard for me to speak intelligently on who's like the breakout star of that brand because I'm otherwise occupied. But what I've seen recently is NXT UK is able to successfully send stars from that brand to UK and to the main NXT, and they're able to be successful. Case in point, a Rhea Ripley, a Toni Storm, and a Imperium, and we haven't seen Walter that much on the main show, but still.
Well, that is due to what happened to him at Chicago last year. Okay, he'd rather stay home.
Right, exactly. But no, I think beyond.
You're talking about Survivor Series, right?
Yes, I am.
I think we've covered a lot of the basics in regards to best of the year. I mean, unless you guys want to get into AEW personally, I think we've kind of like covered the highs and the lows of the year in regards to all the shows.
Right.
I think we've left this episode like the best of 2020 at a good place. I don't know how you boys are feeling about it.
I mean, the only category left is literally match of the year, and we already talked about what our matches of the year was for NXT, and I told you what mine was, and it will be Ilja Dragunov versus Walter.
I just have one question, and it's for the simple man. Do you think there's that Piper Niven could possibly succeed in the main NXT? Do you think that's something that she could do if they decided that NXT UK wasn't working for her?
I'm thinking about her character, though, and that's the only thing, because I'm not sure how that would fit. When you look at the regular NXT, it's not like you have a personified face, all happy-go-lucky, bright. You have renegades, wild, hardcore, badasses, both in heel and face facets. If Piper Niven can somehow channel that like her hardcore run in ICW, maybe. But right now, I feel like she still is trying to find herself in NXT UK. And until she does that, I have to just humbly say, in my personal opinion, no.
That's my only thing. If she's just going to be in a box where like the title picture is just not going to exist for her, I honestly don't know if there's a point for her even being there.
I agree. And again, she has a ton of potential. I was really looking forward to the way that Kaylee Ray and Piper Niven could have fall out, but now it's subsided into Piper Niven versus Jinny because Jinny caused her. And truth be told, Piper Niven did do a Piper driver to Jinny through a chair prior to this match. So, maybe Piper Niven is a victim of her own circumstance. But she also hasn't really pushed herself beyond what we know her to be. Great in ring, but also very emotionally driven. And I feel like that's been her downfall. Although it did save Toni Storm from literally having her neck broken by Kaylee Ray at one point in an I Quit match, but I digress.
I will admit when NXT UK first came back and they had a title match, I actually picked Piper Niven to win it. I was actually very shocked that it went the other way.
I agree. I agree. I thought that Piper Niven would be the one to take it off Kaylee Ray and we redefined the division. I was wrong.
Yeah, I genuinely have no idea where it's going to go from here. But it's another one of those things where I like it that way. I actually kind of miss that feeling.
Yeah, the expectations.
How long has Kaylee Ray been NXT UK Women's Champion?
He's literally Googling
Not
this
to be
and
a dick,
typing
but
it
there's
out
an
loud.
asterisk behind that.
Wow.
There better be an asterisk.
Has Kaylee Ray as the longest reigning NXT UK Women's Champion, raised in the midst of a 447-day reign as of this writing and counting. Holy cow, guys.
And again,
Over a year.
yeah, she is the longest reigning NXT UK Women's Champion, asterisk wise with time off. But yeah, she's been the most dominant woman in NXT UK's brand to date.
Yep.
Well,
Hell yeah.
That's all I gotta say about that. But yeah, as far as NXT's future goes, this whole list, even the ones in the way, sorry again, Noah G, but you know what's gonna happen. I see them being potential rising stars out of 2021. Now, does that mean that Indy Hartwell and Austin Theory will literally go above and beyond the Johnny Gargano way, go beyond Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae at some point? Way too soon to tell, but at least they're trying something. And I have no idea what the hell they're doing with Xia Li.
Yeah.
Big
Same.
part of it's up to them.
Exactly.
It's up to them. Well, time will only tell, gentlemen. Well, guys, we've been going for almost 4 hours now. I think we've covered all the bases in regards to not only 2020, but pro wrestling as a whole for this past year. And I think it's been a hell of a been a crazy, hectic year. Hopefully 2021 we see the return of fans and a large sum to WWE because AEW has proven that you can have fans in attendance. Hopefully we get to see that stadium for WWE, not only for main roster but NXT as well. We get Mania in a stadium this year. 2021 is turning out to be a hopeful and promising year, and hopefully we get that for all of pro wrestling, not just with continued AEW and hopefully with WWE. Boys, I think
we got to do match of the year.
I mean, we started talking about in the beginning. You both pick like a WWE one, but if you want to pick an NXT one, reading the list would just take forever, so I'm just going to let you freeform it, and I'll let you know what's on the list or not, and then y'all can go from there. So, okay, let's quickly close with this. I already told you mine. Pete, your NXT match of the year.
It was an honorable mention earlier, so I'll just go ahead and say it now. Adam Cole versus Keith Lee.
There you go.
I will second that motion every damn day. That match was incredible. The false finishes, you had no idea who was going to come out on top, and Keith Lee did it, god damn it. And he's the only one in history to be a double champion in NXT history, holding both singles belts at the same time. Hopefully that is never duplicated, and if it is, it's not by Johnny Gargano. Anyway.
And yes, that is a choice. It's a good job.
It's Adam Cole versus Keith Lee for winner take all match at Great American Bash.
Fair enough.
Noah, what's yours?
Could hold up an empty shot glass for that.
It is Walter vs. Ilya Dragunov because the fact that this match was told so much without an audience, just the sheer sound and the vocal exchange between the two. And that is the reason why I also love New Japan Pro Wrestling. It felt like a never openweight championship match to me as well. I loved this match top to bottom, and this was TakeOver main event worthy. 25 minutes long plus on NXT UK TV. You don't get pay-per-view quality championship matches on freaking WWE product. You don't. This proved that you could. And I hope it's the first of many more to come. Incredible match. For me, it's Walter vs. Ilya Dragunov. Simple as that.
Boom. All right, gentlemen. This concludes the 2020 celebration of the sauce. We're going to see y'all in 2021. Coming to you live on Twitch again. And also live reactions on Sunday between myself and Hossman here. And JDP, if you happen to be listening to this, Big Jack Attack, we want to be seeing you back on this show as well, brother. We hope that you take care of brothers, raise a glass. And I do have this. And we love you guys very much. We have a special, I have a very special sign off for the end of 2020, gentlemen. So raise a glass to this one. If wrestling were a lake and we were ducks, we'd swim to the bottom and never come up. But wrestling is not a lake and we are not ducks. So pass us the title belts and shut the fuck up. Cheers.
Simple as that.
All right. Peace out, guys. Love you.